2 o'clock.
Awesome, ready to rock and roll. We are back with Let's Talk Frank on Solution Central for a heart-to-heart conversation, a sacred soul bonding experience. I'd like to start off with a few quotes, just in reminiscing, and we wanted to go back and talk about our journey together, some of the struggles, some of the adventures that we've had together, some fortification experiences that have created that bond, that sacred energy exchange. So in the Umbrella Academy, it's a great series if people want to check it out. It's in the struggle that folks find their true calling. I thought that was pretty deep and I wanted to share that. Also reading this book right here. And last night I came across a quote by James Cash Penny. Growth is never by mere chance. It's the result of forces working together. Because what good is knowledge if we don't share, right? Two quotes I came across this morning. When you fully trust someone without any doubt, you open your heart completely, and in return, life gives you one of two things. Either a person who stays and proves your trust was well placed, or a lesson that shapes your inner strength and wisdom moving forward. Either way, you grow. Using knowledge and wisdom to help navigate through the unknown, which gives the ability to go beyond surface level understanding. And something that I wrote a while ago, vulnerability is a form of security because it allows people in so that you can grow and be loved for who you are. I was reviewing the very first post you put on Let's Talk Frank on your Insta account about the first interview we had. It was just a clip there. And interestingly enough, 211 weeks ago, I put up a comment about thank you for sharing. And then I gave it a heart and 21 hearts and one comment. 211, the 200. So the synchronicities are off the charts right
Yeah,
now,
I
man.
love how you always kind of break it down like that, right? Um, I can only imagine because, like, I kind of use those same synchronicities throughout my day as well. But I feel like not even on the same capacity as yourself. But synchronicities are a sign of things that are meant to happen, and you're in the right place, sort of thing, right? So you understand that very well, right? And to go back to your quote about the trust, we're going to touch on this now. We had a falling out, and part of what I said to you was, hey, go get yourself worked on, and when you're ready, my phone will always be available, right? So it was that trust in that moment that allowed even that change. So those quotes are very appropriate, and I'm sure you did your homework, but they're very appropriate exactly to what we wanted to discuss today, and
Yeah.
just focus on, it's okay to let things go sometimes, and if you do it out of love, because it was never out of disrespect. I recognized that you were going through a difficult time, and I just said, hey, we need a timeout. You need to go work on yourself. And that was coming from pure love, like not saying that I didn't need to work on myself. It wasn't an egotistical comment. It was like recognizing a friend is hurting right now and they need some time to heal. And I can't force it on you, right? I can't change you. I can't tell you what to do because perhaps in that moment you weren't ready to hear it. And I'm pretty sure I might have said things that you weren't ready to hear in that moment.
Oh,
But
100%. Yeah.
but
I wasn't ready at that moment.
you ultimately, um, you're the one who broke the silence, right? Knowing that you committed, you recognize an accountability. And, for people that are trying to change their lives, accountability is one of the biggest things anybody can use to grow and to change,
Right.
because it really does help to when you do take that accountability, you're able to look at your problem or your mistake and work on it, open with an open mind, and then come to a solution. And you reached out, you explained to me what you went through, sorry. And I said, hey, man, you don't need to say sorry. There's nothing sorry about it, right? Because one of your things that you say, Steve, is, everything is by design. God created this, right? So it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was
And
a little spiel.
I appreciate that, brother. I got shivers when you were speaking, and it's in divine timing that we came together now, because especially with the moon, the lunar energy right now, it's about healing. Yeah, we're tomorrow the moon moves into Aries, but right now it's about the healing process, being honest and talking frank. So this is why we
Being frank,
chose we
you know,
yes,
being frank, because there's talking and being too, right? And
100%.
words can be cheap. Actions tell me everything.
Yeah. So speaking about how everything unfolds as it's meant to, went for a walk last night, got a lot of work done. I was working on a promo video for a company that I'm helping get his book out there, and I saw this. Someone just was about to throw it away. We can get this.
Okay, yeah, put it, yeah, right there. Okay,
Can you see
perfect.
that?
It's a little blurry. Put it closer to your face, actually, and I think it'll unblur right
There
there.
we
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So the title is The Secret Spiritual World of Children, the breakthrough discovery that profoundly alters our conventional view of children's mystical experience. I saw that and I was drawn right to it because we're creators of our own reality. We literally are creators. Like when we manifest, it is our intention that restructures the holographic matrix grid that is like a feedback loop of our emotions and our intelligence and our thoughts.
Your
So I was
thoughts. Yeah,
sitting
definitely
there.
your thoughts, because for sure. And I think I see where you're going with this. How
Yeah,
kids are really great manifestors. They don't really realize it. And when do we lose it as adults? But anyway, I don't want to interrupt what you're about to say.
yeah,
So go on.
yeah. There's a time for everything, right? So I'm sitting there on the bench by the river, and talking about now energy. When you flip through a book and the exact page that you stop at, that is what you're meant to hear in that moment. That is the message that the universe is drawing towards you, right? If you're ready to receive it. So page 155, I opened it up and I started reading, and I thought, like, wow, wow, this is wild. After putting the children to bed, I did manage to be still for a few minutes and ask myself, what's really important during this week? How could this go better? I realized my expectations for my work were unrealistic and unnecessary during this week. I then stripped away at my own agenda, forgetting anything except what was absolutely necessary done, and decided that the number one priority was to just be with my children. That's something I learned in leadership too, is that when the parents come to the children and ask what they could have done better growing up, they said, we just wanted to spend more time with you. Like they didn't care about all the stuff that was bought for them, all the fancy toys, gifts. And you often say this to me, Frank. You say, enjoy the moment. How many times are people distracted and uh, out of alignment, not noticing things that are happening around them because they're not present for it. They're trying to get so much done, and I noticed that too because I had a list of things in my mind that I needed to accomplish, and then I just went with the energy instead of because when we rush, mistakes happen. So sometimes I'll have it planned out, the whole intro and everything. But then when we know ourselves well, when we especially our astrological chart, it's the blueprint, but it doesn't mean that we can't change or refine, right? So I find living in the moment just especially with the nervous system, it relaxes everything because in the talk, right? So the very first talk on when I rebranded was the three C's: commitment, consistency, and courage. That is the recipe for the transformation process. So instead of trying to control, which is the subconscious resistance due to unresolved, unconscious programming. And this is what your podcast is all about. Transform your mind by connecting it to your heart and soul. It's
Yes,
that
and body.
it's that embodiment of the
Yeah.
spirits.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and your physical body, right? Because it is an aspect of life too, right? Like, health is not just your overall health and well-being; it's your physical health too, right? And your mental health. So, yeah, yeah, 100%. I think it's very key to really understand those. I love the fact that you're going back to the three C's because it really does take courage. I know we'll discuss this soon. Just I kind of stepped away for a little bit because I was accomplishing a big goal in my life too, right? And things like that. But you know what? It is a passion, and I know same with you when you stepped away. You're coming back to this now because, and you've rebranded. Why? Because you feel a strong urge and passion to share your knowledge and share your growth. And that is one of the most important things we can do as people is share and help because each one of us has a unique talent. And, you know, I kind of refer to this to like maybe if we were to go to a barter system, it would force everybody to really dig out those talents that we have. And instead of buying and selling things, we trade our skills for things that we need. You know what I mean? And give it to somebody who needs it too. And why didn't that system flourish? Because again, part of the aspect of this world is also the dark side, right? And somebody wanted all this money and to control. You just brought up the C word. Control is very scary. I just recently was in a relationship and I saw somebody who just has a massive amount of control. And like you can't dictate everything. You're gonna have to learn to let go of that control because sure you can dictate yourself and you can try to do as best as you can, but you can't necessarily map the perfect life. You're always going to get curveballs or you know what I mean, and that's out of your control. And so if you learn to roll with those changes and not allow them to disrupt your journey or disrupt your mood, it's very key and very important. So sorry, I just kind of wanted to touch on what you were saying there.
I noticed too when someone's making deep, uh, a very deep, impactful point during an interview. So I found the perfect spot in my apartment that has the most amount of light because light's important, right? And when they're making those points, seagulls, bro, seagulls.
Birds,
Like, yes, we talk about
fellow
subtle
fellow aviators.
fellow aviators, like Dark Night of the Soul. So the shadow aspect is what creates the triggers, and we can see it in other people, and that's the unresolved parts of ourselves. And this is the thing too. We can't skip the healing process. I was trying to see so far into the future that I was missing the lesson in the present, which created a disconnect. But it worked out because here we are now using it as a teaching moment, and we consciously don't know how many people this is going to reach because I'm just getting started. I
It'll
have
reach the right people.
51 videos so far, and I have a lot of plans yet, right? It's, I don't know who I'm all going to reach. I even did some self-discovery this morning about a conversation we had with someone who's running for the local sector in my city here. And I thought through the conversation about the ways that it could play out and the value that a conversation could have, because even if certain timelines don't manifest, there's still a great amount of opportunity to open mind and expand consciousness, just even if it's him and I having a conversation, if just a
Exactly.
couple people view it, because the goal is solutions, right? And uh, having a two-way conversation just might open up an avenue that he previously didn't think about because it's the way that you explained the subconscious mind. And then this is ties back to the Garden of Eden story in Genesis, right? Beginnings. That's why it's Genesis, and then it goes into Exodus.
It's
It's a it's an entire novel about consciousness, and astrology is the blueprint, right? Like the disciples of Christ, there's 12 constellations.
Well,
The sun, Christ, and the disciples.
disciples.
Consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
wild.
there's a lot of there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Um, things that tie into each other, you know what I mean, that have been split up. And it's almost like a puzzle that we have to put together in our lives as this video game, per se. We're trying to level up with each level. And it could be on level 10 right now out of 12. Who knows? But yeah, I totally understand that. And, those words, I have a hard time too, because sometimes I believe that those that book could have been manipulated in so many ways, over time, right, as for control, you know what I mean. So I feel like we take bits from that, we take bits from other aspects of this world, and that's the puzzle that we have to figure out. And again, the astrology too, right? You want to put it all together as best as you can. I don't think we should lean into one side so hard, you know what I mean? I feel like there's bits and pieces of all sorts of things in this world. The video you shared with me the other day about is it Josiah or just Jehovah? Was it the just Jehovah codes or something? Do you remember what um, what they call Jesus?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. What Jesus learned
Egypt.
in Egypt. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So now knowing that there's these energy fields around this, in these cities, why are these cities being attacked, or why are they very important even in this modern day with wars and that sort of thing? So it really makes you think, you know, what other aspects of this world that we don't really know of, the huge debate about the flat earth. You know what I mean? Which, as a pilot, I get asked all the time, you know what I mean, about whether the world is flat or if it's round, things like that, right? So, regardless of what it is, you know what I mean? We are living on some creation, regardless, some live, like the earth is alive, you know what I mean? Everything around us is alive. It's whatever it is, it's a very cool, video game or virtual reality. You know what I mean? Like it's such a cool, and to go back to your point about living in the moment, I just got back from Costa Rica on a 2 week holiday with my family. Again, synchronicities, talking about being with family, there with my kids and my family. My mom lives there now. My sister celebrating her 40th. I recommend for everybody, if you have a place in this planet or this earth or on this disc, whatever you want to call it, if you have a place where you can be around and you're around unconditional love, do it, because it's a place to recharge your batteries, to just be surrounded by love and by family, because that is one of the most important things, that you have in this world is your family. And if you're not talking to your family, I'd strongly suggest to really try to forgive. One of the most powerful things you can do in this world is forgive. It's not easy,
It's not
right?
always easy, but it is
It's,
worth it.
but it
I'm
is worth it.
What you're saying right now is bringing up so much emotions within me, man. Like I'm almost
Well,
crying
it's it's
because
it's powerful.
it's so powerful reconnecting, especially with energy, right? Like the chakras
Yes.
and energetic blocks. When I hear people talk about uh their own family and how they don't even want to try to make amends, it, it I feel it, man, because they're creating their own blocks and they don't even realize they're doing it. And a lot of times I won't even say anything, depending if I know that they won't even be able to hear it anyways. They have to experience. Sometimes people, for me, I had to hit rock bottom, and we can get into other like the reason why, what it took for me to see. People have to see that they need a wake up call sometimes. But
I I
family is important, right?
I definitely I want to touch back on what you were saying about that, because sometimes it's our egos that get in there and want to do something and want to say something. And you're right, you're 100% right. Like you have to let them experience it. You, as much as you know the answer, right? Like, and you know what? We could be wrong too. So like I don't want to make this like sound like, oh yeah, I know definitively without a doubt that that's the answer. But I tell you, when you do forgive, this side of life that you start to unfold is beautiful. So I believe it's the answer in a very strong way without holding judgment. But to go back to what I wanted to, the point that I wanted to make about staying back and not saying anything, I actually had that moment with my nephew because he doesn't talk to his father right now. And I was encouraging him as his uncle. I was encouraging him to, but he got very triggered. And now this is a 17-year-old boy, you know what I mean, who um, who got triggered. And I recognized that right away. And I said, it's okay. I just want you to understand that forgiveness is a very powerful thing you can do because you have to look at your parent at one point and realize that they're probably still a child inside that's hurting. You know what I mean? And they don't know those, they don't have those tools in order to forgive themselves or to work on themselves. But what I wanted to teach my nephew was that here's the tool. This is what you can do to help the situation. And by forgiving, you can allow them to be them, and you can go on and understand and be aware how they behave and how they are, and don't let it bother you in the future. You forgive them for who they are.
Yeah.
Forgive them for the things they've done. Now, to go back to that point as well, we don't know what happened to those people either. So we can't just have a biased opinion when we hear that from people. Like as soon as my nephew did said that back to me and just said, well, you don't know what he did to me. Like, dude, it was like a knife piercing into me in my body. It was almost like I felt the pain, even though I don't know exactly what it was, but I felt the pain reverse
And
back to me.
you don't need to know what it is because your body will. And that's the thing about when the intention is received, words matter less if the intention is received. And if it's not, then the conversation, it just, it can't
It's just a
happen.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just empty words being exchanged, right? Yeah, I feel that. I feel that response. And yeah, it was a very powerful moment. And I switched the topic after that because now it's not about being right. You know what I mean? It's just about being love. And it's just about showing care and love and acceptance. You know what I mean? We need to accept people for who they are. Again, in that moment, Steve, like when we had our last conversation before we had our little split up there, um, I was feeling where you were coming from, and I was just like, "Whoa, man!" Because you were coming at me with some strong accent, and you know what? And I actually wanted to say something in regards to that. You weren't wrong either. You were calling me out because I wasn't doing anything with Let's Talk Frank. I was just kind of going through the emotions in life. You know what I mean? I was definitely in a trough in my life at that time. So you were calling me out. So it's not like you were saying anything bad,
Because
but
you
you
asked me to. We talk about accountability, and I, I may have approached it from a very, very direct and arrogant sense because I was also wrestling with something very dark. So I'm so thankful that you brought that up. I appreciate that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And like again, like I'm somebody right now that can look in moments like that and look back and also take what I did wrong too. You know what I mean? Like now it wasn't like, we were just, it was like a direct call. You called me and you were battling with something already. So it was like that energy you were putting on to me because maybe that's what you were going through. Like your solutions business wasn't necessarily taking off or wasn't going where you wanted to go, that sort of thing. So what do we do? Sometimes we project on others. And, perhaps because I have a very similar platform, you know what I mean? It was easy to do that to me. You know what I mean? But that's okay. Like I'm not trying to dig up dead bodies here. Again, it's a learning conversation, right? To really talk about those things and also just go back and understand what you did too. Like and you were right. Like I totally see it now. But I was also going through a goal, a huge goal that I was trying to accomplish in my life, and I'll come back to that in just a second. So after all that, that conversation, you know what I mean? Like I was just like, okay, man, you need some time. You need some time to heal. But guess what? My phone is always here. You know what I mean? When you're ready to talk, talk to me. And it was tough. It was like breaking up with a girlfriend, for example. You know what I mean? Like with a partner. You know,
Yeah,
like you were trying to reach out, and I was just trying to. I blocked you, and I blocked you like a crazy ex girlfriend. You know.
yeah,
Not that there's also crazy ex-boyfriends, so it's not just one gender,
yeah,
but it was like a crazy ex, you know what I mean? And you needed that. We needed that separation. We needed that time. Um, at the end of the day, when you came back, right away, that energy, I felt it. Like I felt that I knew you learned and I knew you were really genuinely sorry because that's what happened. It was a genuine sorry. It was a genuine accountability of like what you did and what happened to you and where you went. And you explained your actions. And if anybody ever is going to give you a sorry, that's what it should sound like. When you come back to somebody and you say, listen, I know what I did wrong.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Thank you for not being a complete jerk because that wasn't like I was swearing back at you and matching you at that level. It was more so, hey, Steve, you need to chill out. Like, where is this coming from? I don't
Yeah.
understand where this is coming from. You know what
See,
I mean?
this is perfect because we were talking about different ways to view things. So for every level on the scale of consciousness, there comes more awareness. With the faster frequencies, the more information you can process, right? So
Yes.
I'll explain what it took for me to see how you were explaining things so I could see your perspective, right? So to get the full perception of it. And it was a wake-up call. So in the third dimension, I had to see someone on drugs say to a friend of his, come back and beg for my forgiveness. And I laughed because that sounds so retarded to say that out loud. Like when you take a look and have that accountability in the mirror. And that's the thing about looking at ourselves in the mirror. We can see our own reflections. It took that. Now, if we go to the fifth dimension too, more awareness, more information. I had this conversation with Carrie about in the fifth dimension. And I said, would you agree that a change of behavior weighs more than the weight of an apology? Because again, embodying that frequency. The original definition of forgive meant to give energy to something, right? So it ties back into the love languages, speaking with people in a language that they can comprehend and properly receive. And so that's the thing with great power comes great responsibility. Having that awareness and knowing how to adapt based on people's needs and their perception, very impactful because forgiveness is huge, but which language is it coming from so that they can have that moment? Because a lot of times people will apologize or say sorry.
Right.
It depends
But
why they do it. Is it for the other person? Is it for their own healing? It's a
yes.
mutual symbiotic energetic exchange, right?
Well, and again, you know, like when it comes to forgiveness too, it was almost a selfish thing, you know, and I'll explain that in the way that like you're doing it because you know that you've committed, you know what I mean? Like you know you've committed wrong. Maybe it's your perception too, right? Like you know, because we can debate it too. Like what is wrong sometimes? You know what I mean? You know,
Exactly.
obviously killing somebody is wrong, but yelling at somebody for, you know, crashing into your car, I mean, you know, that could almost be okay because you're like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, but again, it's the energy too, right? So again, being able to say sorry is very important for yourself because then it's taking that accountability,
Yes.
recognizing that you committed something wrong, and you're saying sorry. It might not necessarily be received well by the other person, but at least for yourself, you know that you manned up and pardon the figure of the expression, obviously, but you owned up to it and you recognize you did something wrong, so you said sorry. So in a way, you know, it's a good selfishness, like it's a good aspect of being selfish because you are trying to reverse that energy and take back that negative energy that you gave out and now put back some positive energy. So
So it's a law of karma too, right? We get what we put out into the universe. We can't
exactly.
expand beyond
That's a
where we're
great way of
currently at. So we have to release what's creating blockages. Otherwise, we will not progress. It's that simple.
100%. And again, like everything happens when it's meant to happen too. Like, so those apologies were meant to happen when they were meant to happen. So, at the end of the day, like to see you, where you came from too, from that time to where you are now, you're way more stoic. You can see that you know what I mean? Like you were all over the place, right? And not in a bad way. Your mind is so like it's a sponge right now. Like you are absorbing so much. You're getting so many downloads. Like anytime we have conversations, like you take my mind to places where I'm like, wow, like I never thought I'd be hearing these kind of things or seeing these kind of things, or do you know what I mean? So I really appreciate our conversations. That's why I never was like, I never was evil to you. I never was hurtful. Like, I always wanted to support you as a person because I recognize your value, and you cherish me for that because you say I recognize it from like the first day that we hung out. You know what I mean?
Well, that
And
I gotta
that's an ability that I have about looking into people's souls. You know what I mean?
thank
When I look into people and when I get to know somebody, I'm able to really break them down in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, because I think we all should. We should all be looking around us and seeing who we are around or surrounding ourselves with, because that energy is so key. It's within, I think it's within 12 feet of somebody, you can absorb their energy. You know what I mean? And
it
it's like,
depends on your level of power. And I gotta interject here because Frank, in an interview that we did with Carrie, I said, you got a power inside you, buddy. Like the night we met. And that's why I'm so thankful I recorded it because we we bonded through a soul journey together. I'm feeling shivers through my entire body as you're talking. One of your gifts, Frank, is you have the ability to heal people with your voice alone. Literally. It's
well,
powerful,
I
bro.
gotta share it more. And that's part of what's gonna happen soon, right? Like we're making that happen. Like, thank you.
We're in the process. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, right? It's maybe not understanding that I had those gifts. It was part of going still through my journey as well, and going through some hardships and through some tough relationships as well. And I feel like we both have been going through very similar situations in that regard. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot to learn. And I think the good thing is that both of us recognize that we're still not done learning. Like, we have a lot more to do and a lot more growth.
We can
You
never
know what I
think we
mean?
know it all because then that hinders and stunts our own ability
You
to,
know,
it creates limits. And we never will ever know it all.
and I don't want to know it all because, it could put you into some dark places too if you know a little too much about certain topics and certain aspects of, especially if we dive into the negative side of life. You know what I mean? That the the child trafficking ring, the drugs. You know what I mean? Like if we look at the negative side of life, and the news reports it all the time with politics. You know
Because
what I
they
mean?
want to
Like
keep people in those lower dimensions. What do you think? I chose everything I went through. I chose a very dark path. I was connected to those energies to know, right? Because in order to heal, you have to read things from a negative and a positive, a dark and a light aspect with which exists within all of us.
within, yes.
We have to know in order to create that balance within, we have to be honest about everything that we are made of.
And how do you know light if you don't know dark either?
Bingo.
You can't just come from the light and be like, okay, hey, I'm a light worker.
That's
Oh,
false light. That's part of the new age movement is they don't want to talk about the shadow side
the
at
shadow
all.
side. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, for me, what was huge was, we shared some similar addictions, right? Like I've gone through my party phase. I did some stupid drugs. I've just recently quit drinking. I'm going on to 7 months now. Um, things like that. Understanding. I think this even came from you, Steve. You talking about alcohol, how even the word. in the etymology or etymology. I forget the word now. But I apologize. It's been a while since I've actually used it. But anyway, how it breaks down into an actual demon, and it's happened to me before where I blacked out, but I was still functioning. And then I came back to consciousness and I was like, where the hell did I go? And who knows, maybe I was possessed by a demon in that moment. You know what I mean? Like just to kind of give you an idea of what how crazy it was. Like I added people on Instagram that I never, you know what I mean? I've never known. And then when I'm like, how the hell do I know them? And they go, yo, Frank, that time it was awesome. You were awesome. I'm like, well, at least that demon was cool. You know what I mean? Like he was just probably trying to get laid, if
Yeah,
anything, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because they can't be in this realm, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's another topic for another day.
yeah.
But again, like recognizing that whenever I did drink, for example, like the person that I was becoming while I was under that influence, and just like any drug magnifies your personality. Thankfully, I was a pretty happy person in those, and when I was under the influence. However, sometimes you did some shady shit. You know what I mean? When you wanted more of it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, like going through those kind of aspects. Man, I had an addiction to sex. Like, I like these are things that I definitely want to help men with. You know what I mean? To not give away your energy so much. Like, I was blessed as a guy. I mean, thankfully, Latino, good, good looks. Not, I'm not perfect, but it wasn't very difficult for me meeting people and having that, you know what I mean? So that was a drug for me. It was so easy and it was so easy to get. And I've learned to now keep my energy. It's so important. Like, man, when you go down this growth, when you go down that path and you look at yourself very honest and openly, you can really make those changes if you believe in yourself. And you know what? Even the learning about disabilities, I've never been diagnosed with anything, but I know that I probably have an attention, as short as a fly. You know what I mean? But I still get shit done. You know what I mean? I don't want to use excuses anymore. And that's something that, especially in my last relationship, like I just kept hearing excuses like, oh, well, I have this because I have this. Well, no, you have that because you're not doing anything about it. You know what I mean? And now you're looking for an excuse. I've I've had some great conversations with people with ADHD. They tell me they take medicine and it really helps them. But if we look at the purpose and why God made us, like, isn't that part of his creation? Like, weren't you created in a certain form for a certain reason? Like people, and I think you're the one who shared this with me recently, was people with ADHD, they are very deep thinkers. So they're designed to create maybe some intricate, who knows, designs, intricate structures or infrastructures, whatever it comes, like things like that, because they're thinking so much that they can pick out a lot of detail. You know what I mean? To a what's the word I'm looking for right now? To a fault, perhaps, because like it can get a lot. But this is where you learn tools to buy, like to gain those tools,
Yeah.
and relaxing, meditate, exercising, doing something like that to really like, I'm hearing that you go for a lot of walks, and I think that's from what I'm gathering, it's like your form of relaxing your mind because
It,
you're constantly busy.
it's a therapy for me. The book that was next to the one that I showed you was Play Therapy Theory with Children. So part of the soul recovery technique is when we get traumatized, there's a part of our inner child that splits off, and it's about reconnecting those fractals, and that heals our DNA, which heals our soul. Because in Costa Rica, this is what I wanted to ask you: were you in the blue zone, or how far were you
I
from the
was,
blue
yeah,
zone?
I was pretty close to it. I was in Guanacaste. It's in Nicoya, the blue zone, and it's obviously very famous for being one of the five blue zones. People that, and for those of you who don't know that, it's where people live to live more than 100 years old, right? Which is incredible. But by the way, my grandmother, she's not with us anymore. She was one of them, but she never lived in Nicoya. She grew up in San Jose, which is the capital. But I'll tell you one thing. This might be gross for some viewers. Viewer discretion advised. But when I'm down there and I eat the food, I am regular every day and like healthy regular. You know what I mean? It's not like I find the food here is a little different and it does change my body
It
a bit.
does.
So
Yes.
you have to be very careful with what there's a lot of GMO, especially in our vegetables. Like I saw a sweet red pepper down there and it was like very skinny. Here they're like this big.
They're
You know what I mean?
nutrient dense. Yes, it's so with the blue zones, they live the longest because of the environmental factors is huge.
Yes.
Genetics sets the stage, but the lifestyle pulls the trigger. I sent you that quote last night. So there's a lot of information that's going to be coming out about DNA and the capabilities as the years progress. So a lot of the information has been hidden and covered because our DNA is 12 strand. It's angelic. It unfolds like like a spiral. It's a vortex, right? So 120 is we should be living to 120. We can live well beyond that, I would imagine, with what our power is fully capable of. But it's so with ADHD, autism, all those different disorders, disability. I'll show you this ability. It's not a disability. It's how it's taught. So people, they're
Yes.
low energy. So there's 14 out of 15 causes of death that are listed in the States. It's inflammation. What people eat. You have beautiful skin, Frank. You're blessed with beautiful genetics. People burn in the sun because their body's inflamed. It has to with they just did a study on rats I came across, and they fed it a carnivore diet, and the other one they gave like oils and grains and stuff like that. Those rats burned. The ones that were on the carnivore diet, no inflammation, no skin, no sunburn. Comes down
Mhm.
to what we eat. It's
Gotcha.
inflammation. So
Yeah.
low energy causes distractions. They can't focus. I'm more focused now. I changed my energy. I changed what I eat, what I consume, how I talk to myself, how I think, who I surround myself with.
Yeah. And to go back on the ADHD, like these conversations that I had with these people were, to share for them to share that, like I can only imagine what it's like to really be like I'm a deep thinker myself. At times I do overthink. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know what I mean? I do set myself up like today. I woke up and I had goals that I wanted to set before I sat down to talk with you, and I got them done. You know what I mean? Yeah, I kind of kicked a little bit. I just got back from holidays, so I'm a little in the relaxed mode right now. But I still wanted to feed because even on holidays, I still was able to get up, do some workouts, um, do some meditations, and it was beautiful because the birds and I'm in the tropics, so like the sounds of the insects and the birds and the smells and the air, it's different, right? It's a little bit different. Even though I came back and it still felt like I was in the tropics, there's just a little bit of a difference down there from my point of view. But to go back to like getting into that routine, or you know what I mean, like those habits, and to go back to kind of our what our minds do, habits dictate our lives too, right? And our thoughts. So if we think there's, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it, you know what? I posted a reel yesterday about, it's important to change right now in this moment because, we can't change in the past, obviously, because the past is past, but we can't even change in the future because we don't know if it's going to be given to us. We don't have that guarantee. You know what I mean? So the only time that we have right now, the only time that we have that only exists is right now. So we have to make those decisions in order to do it right now. So yes, it's great to set those goals. Like I knew that today we were going to meet, and have this conversation. So I kind of was trying to be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be more productive. This is what I want to get done in order to make sure that I'm ready for the folks going to be viewing this interview, and the best information that I can give. I came in already done. I feel good. I put a nice shirt on. You know what I mean? So little things like that are very key things to really get you motivated, to make you feel good. And that's how we can create those changes in our lives, is changing our habits and writing them down. If you, I'm not a big writer, but I definitely do keep those things in my mind. And I remember earlier, I kind of wanted to say that, and if we don't finish it, because you were talking about going with the flow of the energy, that is so important too, because if we don't get it done, don't beat yourself up over it after. You know what I mean?
Bingo. Yeah,
Right?
it's
Don't
so
beat yourself
easy
up.
to be hard on ourselves. Like when I was on the phone with Tom, he said, "You got to start writing, man. Your mind is incredible." But you're jumping from one topic to the next, connecting all the dots. You got to get it out of you. You got to get it down on paper. So
Yeah.
that's where the energy's going. So sometimes I'll write, and then other days I'll be coding and programming, and some days I'll be recording. But like I said to you, the vision that I have is so big. Some days it actually scares me because it is a lot. We were sitting there in your beautiful car on mushrooms right after the movie, and you asked me, does it ever get to you, like all that weight on your shoulders? And, well, I agreed to it, right? We signed on for this. You were born under a full moon. It's amazing. So the amount of information, like when you're subconscious, that's the moon. It's wide open. The amount of information that you can actually tap into because you were born on a full moon, massive mission.
Massive mission. And
Massive.
yeah, I only learned that recently. And, I share with you too that, I'm almost nervous, like, because it's like, wow, what kind of mission, what did I sign up for now? Um, but at the end of the day, like, you know, I've always been a confident person, and maybe, based on how I was born, the gifts that God gave me, all that is uncovering the goal and the mission eventually. That yes, I will have to be strong. I will have to be in front of people. I will have to be talking. I will have to become a leader. And this ties into basically what I've been up to recently. I'm officially a captain now at my airline, flying the plane that I've been flying, and now I'm a leader in my life as well. Like I'm in charge of a crew of four, like including myself. But again, it's very significant. Like, why am I learning this? Why am I going through this? Right? Like these leadership skills can be learned in different parts of your life or different areas, not necessarily specifically in my career, but yes, it is very important in my career to become a leader. And what kind of leader are you going to be? Right? So that's been something that has been very important and very huge for my growth too, is just what kind of leader do I want to be? And some things that I've been learning and I want to share with the viewers is leadership comes from leading by example. It's not a how good that I tell somebody, hey, go clean up the back, go put the belts and put them properly. You know what I mean? That needs to be done. Like, no, hey, encourage people to be their own leaders too. You've been trained in this. I don't want to have to tell you how to do your job, because you should know, how to do it because you've done the work. So I want you to make those decisions. If you come across something that, perhaps you don't really need to disturb me as the captain, I need to kind of know everything what's going on, but not always. You know what I mean? Because I also have a million other things that I need to be checking to make sure that airplane is airworthy in order to conduct a safe flight and a legal flight, because that's another aspect of it, right? Like, I got to talk about the law here. We got to look at the airworthiness of the aircraft. I got to make sure that any snags in aviation, or any defects that we have with the airplane, are taken care of, properly written inside the journey log. And that's where we put all that information for maintenance. And that's how we track everything. So I have to make sure that's good. The flight plan is good. The weather is good. You know, my name's on the flight plan, the fuel. Like there's so many other aspects that I have to worry about. So what I want to encourage my crew to do is to become their own leaders. So if they see like a bag on the floor, and instead of calling me and be like, yeah, there's a bag, person can't lift it, you know what I mean? Use caution, use your training to lead you to a proper decision. You know what I mean? Like what's your training in that aspect? Generally, flight attendants or cabin crew members are not able to do that just for risk of injury. So perhaps asking another we call them able-bodied passengers, ask somebody, maybe another guest, be like, hey, do you mind putting this up for me? That sort of thing. So you take the initiative to use your training and your skills to come up with solutions. right? And this ties into beautifully to how we are approaching our platforms. We want to give those people those tools and that confidence to do it on them, to do it by themselves, right? So yeah, that has been a huge change in my life. Not only that, but financially too. Like that has been a very big jump in my pay. I've never made as much money as I have to this point. And it's not about the money because the government takes about half of it, and it's fucking sad to see. But at the end of the day, it's still a blessing. And I worked hard for it. And I worked probably about a year reading, preparing for that moment. And when that happened, it was such a beautiful time. You know what I mean? Like I achieved it. But also, what happened is like I also felt like so exhausted after it because of that energy that I put into it, all that studying, all that worrying and stressing and getting beat up in the simulator, like having to go through emergencies after emergencies. And now as a captain, you have to really be on top of it, right? You have to really know your stuff as well, right? This is no, you can't fake it at this level. There's that saying, fake it to make it. And there's some truth to that where, for example, like I said, I put on a nice shirt today because I want to feel good. Those are little things that you can do to fake it. But you know what I mean? Like, sure, you might look good and your hair might be nice and you might smell good, but you might be shitty inside. You might be feeling crappy inside, but you're just, dressing up your avatar in a way to like mask certain issues.
Yes.
But but at the same time, you can also do this because you are feeling good and you are, vibrating at a high level. Because there's nothing wrong with that too. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with dressing yourself up and feeling good. That is very important. I would encourage it without a doubt. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people sometimes look at themselves in the mirror and kind of feel down, right? Because they don't look a certain way or they don't feel a certain way. You know what I mean? They're not achieving the goals that they've probably set in their minds. They haven't really set physically, but they've set in their minds and they're not achieving it. So, they look at themselves and they're hard on themselves. And we have to get away from that, aspect too of.
Environment is crucial. So this ties in beautifully to the next part. Mission Impossible, the movie that we saw together, because at that point, I had a lot of things, some personal things in my life that I needed to resolve. And I told myself that's why the movie kind of it was drawn to me because I said after this point in my life, I'm gonna have nerves of steel. In that movie, yeah, yeah, he had to have nerves of steel. And that's the thing too, success starts in the mind, right? To
Also,
be able to go through any challenges in life with a relaxed nervous system, that's a master skill.
and to add to that real quick, continue after, but remember, trust. You believe in your skills. Like we both walked away watching that movie. We were really impressed. It was actually really well done and a lot of good messages. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, the message is in it. So the story behind that, I was at a really rough point in my life because I felt stuck, stagnant, money, right? So I've always been protected by one way or another. People come into my life, and it's the relations that I value. I've always valued that more than money. So I'm learning a healthy respect for money. So I've had to detach from that and learn how to adapt and thrive on a certain amount of income. So I fell into this is the thing with certain types of currency and especially with the market. If you go into the market, in the stock market with greed, they will eat you alive. So I fell for something that looked like a genuine opportunity, and I went further than I should have in my mind because I was living too far in the future. I wasn't present. So stuff happened, and there was some relationships that needed to come to a certain point, borrowing money and then having threats from certain people and making promises that I couldn't deliver on. And that, right, our character is huge. And then it all ended up working out. So I saw that money because I'm just like, I'm trying to pull off an impossible mission. But having that nerves of steel, that growth, being immersed into something that is I used to be so stressed. Now I'm relaxed. I don't really worry about anything because applying for jobs, they just job after job after job. Tried to be a dishwasher, busboy, work at sales stores with cell phones, work in a health store. I don't know if it was my resume that I look like I was overqualified, but maybe there's another aspect too. Uh, I told my dad I won't give up on my dream. The very first video I sent him was the commitment, consistency, courage. I said I won't give up on a dream. I rebranded, did all of that stuff. And I wanted to get into energy too because I changed my life while I was possessed. Like I restructured everything, started making changes, started rebranding. I thought of how to rebrand while I was under demonic influence, how I could reach the most amount of people, be genuine, authentic, change my health, change habits in my daily life, started becoming healthier. And I would love to know if anyone else has done that because I don't know anyone that has. I would love to talk to them. If there's anyone out there that has been possessed and they changed their life while under the influence, I want to meet those type of people, man, because those are the type of people that I know can have a huge amount of influence.
Sure. And you know what? You're putting it out there right now, and I hope that somebody reaches out. Yeah, definitely DM them, DM Steve, and let them know because I think it would be a great conversation and a great, yeah, like just great ideas, like bouncing off. Not even ideas, just the story, like to hear the story, like because that's exactly what you said to me, like that you were possessed. You know what I mean? And something came out over you. I don't think it was a bad. It could have been worse. Like it wasn't like you
Could have
were.
been way worse.
Could
Oh
have been
yeah.
way worse for sure. I think you shared too that you were dipping too much into some psychedelics, and when you do not control that, based on what I'm learning now, is if you dive too deep into psychedelics and you do it too close together, you don't give your body that rest. Um, and also being around good energy. You know, sometimes if you're not around good energy, that's also very key and very important because you can attract some negative entities during that. Is that under the? Is that in the fourth dimension, or are they part of the fifth dimension? The
So demons can only reach the ninth dimension,
ninth.
which
Okay,
is why not everyone can see them. It depends on their level of consciousness, their soul evolution, past life experience, right? So it's
those
when
things.
when they refer to the chosen ones, they were the ones who chose to become the most like God, right? It's the mission that they signed up for. Not just anyone has certain abilities. It depends on their experience. You know what I mean? We go
Yeah,
with the life path and the soul contracts that we chose. Everything is a contract. Everything has to do with what we agreed to, consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously. So all these things are important and it's not always easy to share, but I've learned that when we hold back, when we doubt, this is why I feel like there's certain relationships that are coming to a peak in my life to teach me to trust my own intuition, right? Because we can't outgrow our own level of awareness. We can try, but then it creates more issues. So sharing what I just shared was not easy, but I knew that I had to do it. And it's part of getting past that. It's uncomfortable growth is what it is. Uncomfortable growth.
it's also being authentic and being real.
Yeah.
And what what better way to connect with people than showing that. Like I'm not going to be an influencer showing going with the trends and oh yeah, look at this, going with the music and the little dances. Like that's not real to me. You know what I mean? Like real is having these kind of conversations and having those moments where you're very, very vulnerable and people connect with that vulnerability because some people are very difficult to release whatever's trapped inside of them. And I kind of like that just popped into my mind, but I did a 10-day um, reset your nervous system breath work therapy. And I never would have never thought in a million years, oh yeah, breath work, whatever, again, your thoughts, right? You know how they dictate things. If you start with like that kind of connotation in your mind, like you're just like, ah, oh, it's such a name. But I'm telling you, it was so eye-opening and rewarding and relaxing, and then once you start diving into that, you start learning too about what the breath can actually do, and actually holding your breath. When you hold it for more than 90 seconds, I heard 60 to 90 seconds, your body can start generating stem cells.
Yes.
And it was crazy. I was like, oh my God, man. So you like through that kind of therapy, you can also heal yourself. So there's so many ways outside of the mechanistic form of medicine that you can heal yourself. And don't get me wrong, the modern day medicine, there's a lot of great things to it as well. But there's also like, you look at some of the practices of some of the cultures that we have in this planet, like, the Chinese culture. Some of these practices have been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And why did we get away from all of them, right? It's because you can't make money off them. I mean, that could be the most obvious answer right now. You know what I mean? But some of them also don't give you that long-term relief sort of thing, right? So again, what I told, this is about the puzzle that we're trying to solve. Little bits of here, a little bit there, a little bit there to create the best puzzle that you can for your life and for yourself. You know what I mean? So I definitely would recommend if you know somebody in your area that provides class, if you're looking for some healing, a different form of healing, because not everybody enjoys the yoga, not everybody enjoys the meditation, not everybody, you know what I mean? Like this could be another tool that somebody can use to help themselves release, because all it is, it's about releasing energy. And that was really key. And different parts of the body, it was really cool to learn that your body, just like stress, you're holding stress in your body. When you're under a lot of stress and you don't talk about it or you don't do anything to get rid of it, your body traps it somewhere. So that stress is energy. So that energy is stored. It could be stored in your legs. It could be stored in your arms. It could be stored in your back. It could be stored in your neck, in your face. It was really interesting those 10 days to see where that pain was being stored for me. A lot of it was here. A lot of it too was in my face. I felt like I was being like I was like an old man, like wrinkled up after I was done this therapy sessions. Um, Perhaps, and the way I deciphered it was perhaps is a mask that I have on top of my face right now that I'm hiding. You know what I mean? We talked about earlier about the mission that we have and how you're scared. I feel like I'm a little scared too, man. But you know what? On the other side of that fear is everything that we want. So
Everything.
we have to push through that. So I felt like maybe it was a mask that I've been hiding behind. Sure, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I got a really cool job. Like, so many people look at me and be like, oh, wow, you're a pilot. Oh my God, amazing. And you know what? It is a cool job, but it's not who I am.
You said
I,
that in one of our talks. You don't want being an airline pilot to define you because that is not who you are. It's what
yes,
you do. What
it's
we
what I do.
do.
It's one of the things
It's
that I
it's
do.
it's a job, but it's not who you are. Who we are is who we it is the essence of our being in our soul,
The
in
way
our
you show up every
spirit.
day.
Yes.
Yes, 100%. And anybody who's flown with me, before I've listened to my welcome aboard spiels, I crack some jokes. Like I try to be a light where I am in the moment
Yeah,
because that's how you embody it. You got to be it. You know what I
be
mean?
about
And
it. Yeah.
remember, and you said that about Carrie, how that conversation you had with Carrie about changing your personality, character. If you can change your character, that is how you're going to change. You have to. If you're living your life right now and it sucks based on your definition, right? And your relationships and everything around you sucks, then guess what? You need to have a full makeover. You know what? Imagine that. let's think about that. Let's brainstorm a little bit.
Let's do
Let's
it.
have a show, instead of extreme makeover for like your house, let's do an extreme makeover for yourself. You know what I mean? And that means like your whole personality, your own, you know what I'm saying?
I
Like
already
your attitude, the way you show up. Like, man, I don't want to break. I'm going to bring this up, but this person that I dated a while ago, like, just had a mood, right? Serious. And I told him, I was like, that you're the one choosing to be like that. You don't have to be like that. You know what I mean? And the excuse was, well, that's the way I was born. That's just the way I am. Sure, but you weren't like that when you were a kid, were you? You were probably happy, jumping around. You know what I mean? Like, when do we go wrong? When do we change? Like, most kids that I meet are always happy and jumping and playing, right? Where does that change? So I call bullshit on that. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you really want to make that change, you definitely have to like extreme makeover your personality
the
altogether.
miracle makeover. I already got the title. Like the miracle, you could do an entire television series based on that, hosted by Let's Talk Frank.
Why
And
not?
why
Why
not, right?
not?
Too. So with the whole topic of forgiveness, Buddha once gave a speech. Someone came to him for forgiveness. It was on my original YouTube channel, and he said, "I cannot forgive you because the person that I see in front of me is not the same individual."
Yeah. Like,
That he saw the growth.
and again, that awareness, right?
Yeah.
And it was almost exactly what I said to you. I'm like, Steve, you don't have to forgive me,
Yeah.
or you don't have to say sorry. Sorry, I don't need your forgiveness. You know what I mean? I already know you've changed. You know, and so that in itself is an apology
I was my
already.
own block and I needed to release that. So a lot of people, they are their own block. They're their own worst enemy, and that's the thing too, judging. When people judge, they create issues, right? When they forgive,
Yes,
they are able to release it. So I noticed that too in my own
yes.
observation. I'm learning to, I'm embodying, observing more instead of analyzing. Our subconscious does all the work. Why do we need to quantify things? Like the unification of the universe is oneness, unity, being whole, being complete, integration into all that is, ever can be, and will be. That is when people started creating numbers and ages and all this. I learned recently too, talking about DNA in the blue zone. So, who is it? Prince, the
Yeah,
the
the singer.
Prince the singer. He doesn't age. You know why? Because he stopped counting his birthdays. When you because
Oh,
he's pro when people celebrate their birthdays, we were born once. Why do we need to celebrate it? I
yeah, yeah,
thought about that too, and I'm just like, this makes sense why I don't care and why I see people wishing other people happy birthdays and the programming on social media, websites, reminding they when you detach from that's why detachment's so important.
yes.
Detaching from the outcome, not counting, because you're burning up resources, you're burning up energy, you're oxidating it. That's what creates aging is oxidative stress on the telomeres on your DNA. You can repair that, reverse it. Now, again, it depends on what people want, what they wish for, their desires. Some people might want to live longer to have a bigger impact, or they might very much enjoy the body that they're in. Some other people come back, reincarnate, whatever. But that's what
Could be a
causes
fear of
stress and
dying
trauma.
too. Could be a
Fear of
fear of dying.
people
You
don't
know.
want to get older sometimes. It's a fear, it's a subconscious fear of dying. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. I don't care if people give me anything on my birthday. I don't really want to celebrate it, or you know what I mean? But then there's a part of me too is, okay, what does this number mean? Spirituality? What's the angel number behind this? What does it mean energetically? So there's the Virgo analytical part of me, and then there's the spiritual part of me. So it's about choosing which parts of me, which aspects best suit that point in my journey and what I need for it, what other people can get out of it. You know what I mean? We're all meant here to work together in harmony. So,
Yes. And you know what? Now that because I don't think I ever answered the question fully about what makes people live longer in the Nicoya region in
Yeah.
Guanacaste in Costa Rica, because you touched on some of the points there. So I think it's really beautiful that I can finish it off now. But when you don't celebrate your birthdays, you just live, right? And having that mindset, people there are happy. And that's one of the things. Costa Rica is voted amongst, I think, the top five usually in the world of like people that are very happy. So that plays a huge role, right? We're talking about, their environment. They don't need much. They live in the tropics. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. It is. It's absolutely gorgeous. The sounds, the nature that you're surrounded by, the ability to be able to go to the beach very close, enjoying that time, right? That natural beauty, the natural playground, I guess you can say, when you do go to the beach. When you have your shoes off, you're naturally grounding. You know what I mean? When you go into the ocean, the healing properties of the salt water, like there was even going back to Jesus Christ times, like they would, if you got sick or you had something or you contact with like a leper or something, they tell you go to the ocean to cleanse yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? So like all these things are so important in that regard. And again, the health, like the food, another thing that I wanted to touch on was they eat the turtle eggs because one of the main things that happen there are the leatherbacks because the leatherbacks only go to certain beaches. How do they know this? And they've tracked them. These leatherback turtles go halfway across the world. And then when they're giving birth, they come back to these same beaches every year. You know what I mean? At exact time. Again, is it based on the astrology? Some scientists have said yes, it's based on certain shifts in energy and the timing. How do these creatures know? They don't talk. You know what I mean? But we don't know that. Maybe they do talk.
Exactly. How? How do they know? Because there's tribes in Africa that knew about the Sirius constellation before scientists had discovered. How did they know? They were in tune.
They were in tune,
In
right?
tune with their own energy. That's how they know.
So there you go, right? Like the energy force around us in this planet, it's very huge, right? But to go back real quick, so the locals actually take the eggs, and now they have laws with the country that allow because the one thing that's very beautiful about Costa Rica is the fact that they protect the naturalists, the natural aspect of the beaches, everything. You can't touch things. You can't take the shells. They prefer you not to touch things because then it ruins the ecology, the natural ecology that surrounds the area. So they don't want you to bring shells home. They don't want you to touch anything. You know what I mean? Leave it the way it is because those creatures either use those shells or you know what I mean? There's certain things that go back into the earth. They get fed. It's a natural recycling system, I guess you can say, right? Just like our bodies, when we die, we become dust and we go back into the carbon, I guess you can say
Stardust, literally underneath an electron microscope, they've looked at human ashes and it looks like space, bro.
yeah.
Literally.
So so anyway, the locals, because what is one of the most like healthiest foods that we can eat? They're actually eggs. Because in an egg, you look at it has the protein and then the yolk has all the fats and all the minerals and everything it needs to create an embryo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to create a chick, to create a living form. So the locals eat the eggs too of the turtles. And like as I was mentioning, there is a specific law that allows them to take a certain amount of eggs. You know what I mean? And also, but it's only got to be a certain amount. And they also have to be careful from poachers because there's poachers that show up and try to steal some of these eggs, right? So again, like they're trying to protect, but they also know that like yes, ancient tribes that were around there have spent many centuries eating those eggs. You know what I mean? So again, going back to the health and the food and the mindset and the fact that they are happy to be where they are. They live in the tropical paradise. You know what I mean? Like one thing that my grandma that I can share with everybody, my grandma she was constantly so happy, especially her last days. I remember her, she, well, like this is how she would be, always kissing and, oh, I love my family. I love my grandchildren. You know what I mean? Like that sort of level of gratitude is very huge. And today I'm going to post, because yesterday my reel was change today. But how do you change? Well, change can come in many forms, but one of the changes is gratitude. It's huge. Even if you don't have much, you still have something. You need to be able to look around you and be like, well, guess what? I at least got food. I at least got maybe a little shelter. Sure, it could be a little tin can, but hey, at least when it rains, you're not getting soaked. And trust me, I went camping last year or 2 years ago. I went camping with the kids and I got drenched, man. And it is miserable. You know what I mean? Like, but that's not my mindset. You know what I mean? Because like as miserable as it felt and it was cold and it was rain, you know what I mean? I was enjoying it because it was a thunderstorm and I was like, this is really amazing that I can hear the air, the cold air and the warm air hitting each other. And that's what thunder is. So like hearing those kind of things, I was appreciating being in that environment. Thankfully, lightning didn't hit us. You know what I mean? It's not the most safest environment to be, but we are constantly all around it. So lightning can strike a home at any time. You know what I mean? So just because we're under home, doesn't mean we're necessarily protected either. But anyway, being in that environment was very cool. Sure, I ruined my shoes, all kinds of other things, but those are material things. Because guess what? I bought more shoes since. I probably bought like 10 more pairs since.
Gratitude.
Yes.
Gratitude is so huge
So
in
huge,
the
man.
little
And
things.
I
Yeah.
don't want to ruin the rest of the reel, but there's three elements that I find that are very key into changing your life today in this moment. And you know what? For the viewers today, you're going to get that treat. Number one, you're going to have to get rid of that negative people around you. That could be your friends that just constantly bitch and complain about dumb shit. And dumb shit is complaining about others, complaining, like, for example, at work, complaining, oh, that guy didn't do this today. Well, you could have probably done it. You know what I mean? Whatever, who cares? But it could also be your family, like loved ones. It could be people in your family. And that is also draining. So you got to learn to limit that time that you spend with them. But it,
Self-respect.
right? So that's very key, right? Those people that you surround yourself, very important. Number two, this is the hardest one, but you got to be mindful of your thoughts. And we've been talking about this uh, this episode. It's very important. Your thoughts, how you deter yourself, how you talk about yourself, how you show up for yourself. Like again, like I told you about the steps that I had written down, well, written in my mind about what I want to accomplish today before I sat down and spoke with you. Those sort of things. I talked myself into doing it. I got myself up. I did a nice workout. I feel great today. And if you don't feel that energy already, then, you know, you'll be learning. You're still in the early phase and stages of growth. But I know that I feel good. I know because I was able to get up, talk myself into, yeah, you want to do this because you got goals that you want to achieve and you're going to accomplish them. So the self talk, all that stuff, very key. And the last one was the gratitude. Because again, it doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be small, little things. Man, I got underwear that I'm wearing right now. I got a t-shirt. It could be so basic. I got craft dinner today. You know what I mean? Who cares what it is? But looking at the small things, when you can look at the small things and be grateful for them, the universe can allow you to the universe knows that you are going to be grateful for the bigger things that do come into your life and you won't mistreat them and you won't abuse them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You'll definitely treat them well. Man, for me, my kids, it's a huge thing. Like to be a parent, it is difficult at times. The kids drive you nuts. You know what I mean? Because they don't understand their level of mentality right now. They just do. They don't think. They just do. It almost sounds like a yoga just do it. Like it's just crazy, right? But again, I'm just grateful because being with them for 2 weeks, and watching them enjoy and have fun, and watching my son dive into the water, watching my daughter connect more with my nephew, the one that I spoke about earlier, um, is beautiful. You know what I mean? So those little moments, being there, like being there with my family, guys, there are so many ways to be grateful, and it doesn't have to be monetary things, or it doesn't have to be physical things. It could be those moments. It could be those moments that you're with your family or your loved ones. It doesn't even have to be your family. It could be with your best friend. It could be sharing an activity with them. It could be just sitting by the river. You know what Steve likes to do, sitting by the river.
Yeah, in
You
the
know what I mean?
quiet, in the stillness, in those moments of reflections, it's less about what we do and it's more about who we're with on the journey. It's never about the destination because we never ever get there. It's always the journey and the company that we're with.
But you're in control of that too. So again, be mindful of that stuff. So, folks, I'm telling you right there, that take it to the bank. You want to change your life today. That's how you do it. The number two, though, the awareness of your thoughts, of your self talk, of how you're being. That is probably going to be the most difficult one. And I don't want to use that word because it's a limiting belief, because you're the one who puts the blocks on yourself. But it will be hard at first to really start picking out when you do say those things like, oh, I can't, or oh man, I wish I could. When you start saying those things and you're aware of when you say them, then you have the ability to make those changes. You know what I mean? So I say that it can be the most difficult one to really adapt into your life, but it doesn't have to be if you have that open mind and you allow yourself to be critical with yourself, and then start paying more attention to yourself. So the awareness, we spoke about this. This stuff right there, man. I wish I could just download it into somebody's brain, which in the future we might be able to. You know what I mean?
They showed it to us in the Matrix, man. They just
Yeah,
downloaded stuff right into people's consciousness. So boom, you just alluded to a futuristic consciousness device. Maybe you can loop that into Let's Talk Frank and have that as an entire product. People can buy consciousness tapes and just have it
why
plugged
not?
directly
Might
into
as
their
well
Matrix
start it now.
in your like you could have an entire building and people just pay to come in and just boom. Which what do you want to learn about today? This tape. Okay, boom, there. Now it's in your subconscious. Cool.
100%.
There's a business idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what? 100%. And you know what? And to go back, like to see the introduction of AI now coming into our lives, and now it's more prevalent. People around me are using it more. People are sending me like, oh, this happened, so I use this, and they send me the answer that AI gives them. And that's another thing. Again, taking those pieces and those puzzles, we can't necessarily use it now. We can't make it a false god. You know what I mean? And the end all be all. You
Have
know
to
what I
have a
mean?
healthy respect, just like with mushrooms, right?
Yes,
So we
exactly.
have to have a healthy respect for it. If we're constantly relying on AI, then it becomes a god, and then we are disconnected with our own soul and our own intuition, which causes other energetic problems too. A healthy
100%.
respect, healthy boundaries, using it as a spiritual tool. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was literally took the words out of my mouth. It's a tool, and it's a very strong tool. And you know what? That is going to be very important for my kids, especially, to really grow up and learn how to use these tools properly and safely. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's also going to be a negative side to it. People are going to try to use and abuse it. But that being said, there's so much, like the point I was trying to make earlier was, in the future, if we're afraid of having all these technological advances and we're afraid that jobs are going to be lost, well, guess what? That's if you have that scarcity mindset or that negative mindset that I was talking about. We will lose jobs. We did it at the Industrial Revolution. Look what happened in the Industrial Revolution. We lost a lot of jobs, farm jobs, things like that, right? Like jobs that happened 150 years ago, 200 years ago, we don't do anymore. You know what I mean? But new jobs came from it. So every new revolution, or any new type of evolution, there's always going to be new things that are going to be born from it. So once you have that mindset, ask yourself this question. I'm kind of jumping off on a tangent here, but ask yourself this question. Are you somebody that sees the world negatively right now, or do you see positively? Do you see the opportunities around the corner? Do you see that you can change your life today and next year be living completely different? And if you can answer that honestly and truthfully, you will have your answer and then you can work from there. So if you see the world as, oh man, we're burning hell, we're going down, sinking ship, abandoned ship, you know what I mean? You got to work on that because there's the other aspect of life right now where it's like, sure, there are some things that do look like things are burning and but how can you get around it? You can get around that by finding your purpose, finding what can help you get away from all that struggle. It could be a business, could be something, but somewhere that is going to allow you to get away from that is going to be that question that you want to answer and only you can answer.
Power of
So
belief, because the collective unconscious determines the timelines. In the A Team, there is a quote that said, "You can never stop the will of the people." It's what people do, how they behave, where their consciousness is at, that actually changes future, what how people behave. And that's why it's so important, podcasts like this, that people tune into expanding their awareness, their consciousness, and connecting with their spiritual roots,
exactly.
because it's not what people say, what leaders or government tells you is going to happen. That doesn't determine the future. It's how we behave in the here and now. That's what determines the collective timelines.
Perfect. And that's exactly it. That's our mission. You know what I mean? It's like to be able to spread that knowledge and to spread that aspect and that, I guess, that point of view, right? We can elevate each other's mindsets if you're ready to, because we can't change anybody. Again, I feel like there's a little limiting belief there. We can, but
We can
not directly.
influence, we can influence, we can
We can
only
influence.
guide them, but they have to
Mhm.
take the steps. Yeah.
They have to, exactly. And you know what? I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and they were crediting a lot of their growth. Like they literally said 50% of where I am today is because of your influence. You know what I mean? Your talks. And I was very flattered, obviously, to hear that because I was like, wow, somebody actually listened to me because nobody listens to me in my life right now. Kids, that's a kid comment. You know what I mean? Um, and so for that person to really see that and value was very important. And I love that I was able to hear that because that also motivates me more to like continue motivating and helping others. I had another friend too that launched a business 2 years ago, and anytime that person was stuck, who do they call? Ghostbuster. No, I'm kidding. They called me. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, "Dude, I'm stuck. I need something." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know anything about the business." I'm like, "Okay, what's the block? What is it?" All right, because when there's a will, there's a way. Another example. Today I live in an apartment, so I rent, and I don't have access to the router. So I'm having issues with my Android box. So I'm calling and they said, "Oh, try to reset the router." Well, I don't have access to the router, and my tenants, sorry, my landlords they're out on holidays, so they're not even home. So I'm just sitting there going, "Okay, well, I guess I can't do it." And there you go. I caught myself saying I can. I'm like, no, man, that's not no. There's a will. When there's a will, there's a way, right?
Has to be a will.
And all of a sudden, I have access to the master switchboard. I guess you can saw. What do you call that? Is it the switchboard or no? What do they call that? We're all the. Oh my god, what is it called? It's gonna bug me right now. Um, oh my god, we're all the fuses. The fuse board.
Fuse box, yeah.
Fuse box. There we go. See? Again, it's that mindset, man. I love it. Um, but so I had the fuse box. Guess what? There's a master switch to turn off the whole power of the house. What happened? I reset the router. So when there's a will, there's always a way. When you're on this path, you're never stopping and you're always pushing through things. Why? Because you have that instilled in your subconscious now. Your subconscious looks for solutions. And that's what, people like myself and Steve are trying to do and trying to offer people is to offer people that mindset. You know what I mean? So that you can live the life of purpose with purpose and find your purpose at the end of the day, right? So anyway, I think that's it's been a long talk, amen.
It's been deep. We covered a lot of topics and gave people much to think about. Light a spark. And that's all it takes sometimes is just a different perspective to have that spark lit, and then it creates a catalyst in their lives. And sometimes it's just one talk. I met a guy in Kitchener one time, and it was someone that I met in life leadership that he crossed paths with. One sentence from Wayne McNamara got him to change his entire life and get clean and quit drugs. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Beautiful. And that's it, man. It's simple. It really is, right? Like sometimes we try to overcomplicate it and really just look for those signs and look for those signals. And I truly believe people can change and people can change their behaviors. I truly believe it. I believe it without a doubt. Whether or not people follow it, it's up to them. But I looked at myself, like my family now, when I was around them, they were like, "You're such a pleasant to be around." Like my aunt even said that. She's like, "We love you a lot. Like you're a pleasant. My boys love you. They think you're so funny." Right? Because those are aspects of my personality that I've looked at and I said, I love that about me. I love that I can be funny. You know what I mean? We were watching a soccer game. We were watching Costa Rica play USA in the Gold Cup that just happened. And I'm there and I'm sitting there with my family and Buddy hits the post and I'm like, oh man, 3 inches too short. And I'm like, man, that's what his girlfriend said. And it just made everybody laugh, right? Like yeah, it's probably not the most
Hey, the Heyoka empath uses humor in order to help other people heal. Yeah, it's perfect,
right.
bro.
And it was like, and my little nephews, they're like they're my little cousins actually. They're not even my nephews. They're my little cousins. They're only 15 years old, and they're dying laughing. You know what I mean? And but again, what they told my aunt and what she told me was just beautiful because I was being my light in that moment and just trying to be funny and just trying to like because it was the Costa Rican player. We could have won the game. 3 inches, we would have won the game. You know what I mean? But either
Yeah.
side, you would have missed the net completely, or you would have scored the goal, right? And but having that moment, sharing that moment, it was a beautiful moment, with my family, and to get that feedback from my aunt saying how we love you, we love having you around. You know what I mean? I'm very happy with who I am. You know what I mean? My last relationship, that person made me feel that I wasn't happy with who I was. They questioned my talk, like my talking ability. They questioned those sort of things. And that is my gift. How can you question that about somebody? Like I didn't question you know what I mean? I questioned their behaviors at times, but I never questioned who they were. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
true unconditional love is loving somebody for who they are. And for that conversation earlier about forgiving people in your family, because this probably really, really is very important, is specifically for your family. You have to forgive them for who they are and love them for who they
Love
are.
them where they're at. Love them where they're at. And that's what unconditional love is. And embracing the fact that we grow together, but we can't force anyone to change.
Exactly, right? So that was one of the things that part of the reason why I had to leave myself from that situation was because I couldn't be me. You know what I mean? It was starting to affect me. It was starting to affect the relationships I had with her family. Because the next time I got out with them, I didn't barely talk to anybody. And her sister even mentioned, like, "Whoa, what's wrong with Frank?" And you know what's wrong with me is that that person was trying to change me. You know what I mean? And guess what? People were noticing because that's not who Frank is. People already know who Frank is. Frank goes out and is mingling. Hey, how's it going? You know what I mean? Like that's who I am. I'm a mingler. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I love even my sister was laughing about it because we went on a little excursion in while we were in Costa Rica to close to the volcano, one of the volcanoes that we were near, and we're zip lining. And every time we were off, like my sister said, she was the last one. She was a little nervous. I didn't even know this, but anyway, that's another topic. But anyway, she said she would come off from the zip line, and she would see me chatting it up, making friends. There was two families from the United States and a family from Belgium there, and yeah, man, like I was already all their friends. You know what I mean? Like I've been to both the people from the states. I've been to both their states, so I had tons of stuff to talk about, especially from Alabama.
Yeah.
And then one person was from north of Boston. I'm like, oh man, I love Boston. Been to Boston. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
beautiful city, a lot of history. You know what I mean? Boston is a great city, right? And and then the other family was from Belgium, and so I was like, oh yeah, Belgium chocolate, right? So like, just even though it's a dumb comment or silly, but it's like it's still a way to connect. You know what I mean? And it's still a way to break the ice, and it's still a way for people to feel safe with you. You know what I mean? And if you're somebody who has a hard time opening and connecting, that would be a hard thing to change about your personality, would be opening up and talking. But you should try it because you never know what you're going to learn from those conversations or what connections. I exchanged emails, you know what I mean? Things like that, right? Because they
Yeah.
had videos, like especially the family from Belgium, they were taking videos of the zip line. So he's like, hey, if you want a video, we'll give you a video to see what it was actually like. I was like, sure, like why not, right? So you never know, but because we're social creatures too, and you spoke about that earlier about the universe, about one unity, and what makes us more whole as a community is realizing that we are one. Even though we might look different, we might have different backgrounds, different nationalities, different colors, different accents in our features, whatever it is, we all still come from the same place. We are all stardust. You know what I mean? And once we can get past all that segregation and, oh, yeah, that race is this and that, and you know what I mean? We can really then unite and really love each other for what they are and have those conversations and connect with people on a deeper level and really learn and still acquire knowledge, um, with different cultures because there's beautiful things. Again, it's that puzzle picking. You're picking those puzzles and you're creating a beautiful picture
Yeah.
in your life.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Being an airline pilot, so I want to tie this into expansion of consciousness too. It's the people that have the willingness to expand their own consciousness, expand their own minds, open up their soul and connect with other people when they're marketing, when they're networking. The people who are willing to develop their own spiritual abilities, open up their mind, connect with people, network. They're the ones that get to travel. They're the ones that bring in the most abundance because they're not judging. They're able to see the world they have. And that's the thing too, right? So that gives you the opportunity to travel, to meet all these people, to have that worldwide impact, to have that enterprise one day, as big as you want to take it, because you're so open-minded. And the more people develop that, the more work they put into it, they can have that too. But
Yes,
they have to be
everybody.
willing to and believe that it is possible without limiting themselves. I see what's possible by watching what other people do and then taking that and implementing it. It's like magic in motion. It's
For
amazing.
sure. And yeah, we can learn off others too, right? Like all the time. You know what I mean? And that's the beautiful aspect of life. Like YouTube is a great tool for that, right? Like you want to learn something, see go in the search bar and put it in and see what pops up and go for a magic ride. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I learned how to make a website now using AI.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Going on YouTube, right? Like, and you know, that's just one example, but exactly, right? Like it's so possible. And I truly believe it because like I'm in a place now where I've created this life, like you said, and I see the world from a different view as well, which is amazing. Like I love and I cherish it. And it's such an incredible, um, just a gift that I created for myself in this life to be able to do that and to be able to share that too on my private account. I guess you could say I share that some of my glimpses of the mountains, especially when I fly over the mountains. Oh, it never gets old. You know what I mean? And I'm very grateful for that. And I think now this could be just my biased opinion, but I really truly believe that the crews that I fly with, they see my personality as like, wow, this is so nice to be around somebody like this. You know
Even
what I mean?
the
Because
videos too that you put on, it's just like, what do we do up in the Mile High Club? Snack, 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 snack.
yeah, right.
The
Like,
coordination
well,
and just having fun with it.
yeah. Well, that was a video that I did with a fellow influencer. He's a real influencer. He's Pilot Inti, and if you want to check him out, I'll give him a free shout out. But he posts a lot about just the industry and things like that. And you know what? We've become good friends. You know what I mean? And because of it, right? So we've flown now uh, 3 times. Yeah, we've flown together 3 times now on pairings. And the one time I say, you know what? Why don't we collaborate? Why don't you do something with me, right? And I'll tell you one thing too. A lot of people in my company were bad mouthing this person, and when I had the opportunity to either be, a dick to this person or treat him like, oh yeah, you don't know what you're doing. But you know what? I want to encourage everybody, even though they're still doing something, they're putting themselves out there, and what? Sure, you might look at it as a threat. It's like maybe they're, you know what I mean? They're going to take away viewers. No, you know what I mean? There's enough for everybody. You know what I mean? Like when you live in a place of abundance, there's enough for everybody. But when you're in scarcity, that's when you start judging and you're like, no, you can't do that. You're so dumb for doing it. You know what I mean? Like
They
I
attract
encouraged
that
them.
scarcity too. Like when people need something and then the gift appears right in front of them and they say no to it, why would the universe send them something even greater than that when they can't even appreciate the gift that the universe dropped them? They couldn't even see it
We
sometimes, right?
couldn't exactly right. And so again, it just ties in. Look, what I did is I encouraged him. We had a great conversation the one time, sitting up 25,000 feet up in the air. And I said to him, I was like, man, you know what? I'm proud that you're doing it. Keep pushing. If I were to be, because like I didn't rat on anybody, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I did tell him, he said, you have a lot of haters, which is good. You always are going to have a lot of haters, but you're doing something that these people can never do because the blocks in their mind and their personalities, they will never ever show themselves. So they're not being real. And yeah, I'm calling you guys out. You're not real people. You're not authentic people. Bad mouthing people behind in text messages behind people's backs, that's not real. You know what I mean? I actually had to excuse myself from a division that I was working at in my union because people were bad mouthing others for having other opinions. And I valued some of those other opinions because it is very important to allow other people to have those other opinions. COVID is a huge example of all the opinions. We have to listen to other people's opinions.
We have to be able to express ourselves without feeling judged because that is how we all move forward together.
100%, right? And exactly. And there's always room to grow. And there's other people's opinions. Like you said, we can't know everything, right? And it's just like opinions. Like we can't have the most perfect opinion. We can have a very good one that's damn close to it, but we cannot have a perfect opinion. Other people are going to have parts of their opinions that there's really good points.
It's
And
dangerous
if
to
you have
speculate if we don't have all the information, of course.
exactly, right? So, that's another thing too. Sometimes in even in real-time conversations, when I'm having these real-time conversations with people, like right away, I can pick up things quickly and realize, okay, that's a sensitive topic. Not going to go there. You know what I mean? Why? Because I respect the person for their points of views, and I'm not going to push but I will say things that I believe in, and I'll even say, well, this is what I believe based on, what I've seen and what I've done or whatever I've read. You know what I mean? But I won't push it onto people because I do want to still respect each other. I still want to have that respect. And I find the most beautiful conversation because I deadhead a lot now. So I sit in the back of the airplane in my uniform. So people love to talk to me because it's like, wow, I get to sit beside a pilot, and you know what I mean? So people pick my brain. And sometimes I have 4-hour flights that go by like this. Why? Because I have great conversations with people that I probably never would have talked to in ever. You
And
know what I
how
mean?
many
Even
pilots actually do that? Like how many people or CEOs do you get the chance to have one-on-one like that's the great thing about your personality, Frank, is you're a people person. You know what I mean? You don't act like you're better than other people just because of a specific title. And that's why the universe is going to give you so much abundance and growth. Anything you want to achieve, set your mind to, you're going to get it, bro.
and you know what? I'm attest. Yeah, uh, I can attest to that because I've done it. And I've achieved something that's very grand in my life right now. You know what I mean? Like to be in the position that I am, I'm very grateful, very blessed. But I also put the work into it, right? Like, the universe gave me the opportunities. You know what I mean? I had to just sit in there, strap my belt on, and take it. You know what I mean? And go with it, right? So I think it's really important. Yeah, like you know what? I've had those conversations with people, like a CEO of one time, and I had that opportunity to ask him questions and like, how are you able to turn the company around? How are you able to do this? And to hear them think this guy's already retired. He was like 55, retired CEO. Amazing, right? And just I got to sit with him and have these really grand conversations. I've sat with all kinds of people, like people that don't have necessarily great jobs, but then you hear them and you hear their stories. Like, I love that. I love that ability to be able to converse. And I really appreciate the compliment you just gave me. Um, you know, I really do have that mentality. Like I don't think I'm better than people. I might dress a certain way, and maybe some people might look at me and be like, "Oh, this guy thinks he's a shit." But there is an aspect of those boundaries in your life. Like you need to create those boundaries. And that is like a boundary for me where it's like, okay, I look a certain way, but guess what? I also am like that with myself. I am a certain way with myself. I have a certain, people look at me and we're like, wow, you're 43. You don't even look 40. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, come on. Like I got the gray hair now and it's coming in more prevalent now. But still, why? Because I put in the effort. I get up, I do the workouts. You know what I mean? Like, and I know I can push harder still. You know
And
what I
it's
mean? So,
okay to treat yourself too. If people look at you and they have a judgmental mindset, well,
oh, it has nothing to do with
eh,
me. It
yeah, it has nothing to do with you
has nothing to
whatsoever.
do with me.
You're just showing them a part of themselves that they need to resolve when the time is right, too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I was in Texas one time, and that's the thing about people who travel. You can tell based on how they talk, because we were having a discussion about what a washroom is actually called on an airplane. It's a lavatory. Lavatory. It's
Laboratory.
got a
Yeah.
different name on a bathroom, but only someone who's traveled and expanded their mind would be able to
Yeah.
know something like that.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 No, it's beautiful. I definitely, that's one aspect of my job that a lot of people were really negative on it in my company about traveling and deadheading and doing those kind of things. Um, but again, it's all mindset, right? When they're talking bad about this influencer, you know what I mean? Let him do his thing. Let him be. You know what I mean? He's a nice guy. At the end of the day, he's a nice guy. No one's perfect. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, this person, that's what he feels that he wants to do, and that's his passion. And like, it would contradict everything that I'm trying to do with Let's Talk Frank. Like, I want to encourage people to chase their passion. I had an opportunity to collaborate with this person, and they were more than welcome to. He's like, "Really? You want to?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." So, like, if anybody wants to check it out, it's on my page, Let's Talk Frank, right? let's underscore talk underscore Frank at well, it's at Let's Talk Frank. But anyway, on Instagram, and I'm telling you, it's a silly little video. Who cares? But you know what? Exactly what you said. It's two people having fun, enjoying where they are, and making it fun and making it so that people can see. And if for example, we're inspiring another generation of pilots or whatever, you know what I mean, then so be it. That's what the purpose is, right? Like it's out there now. You know what I mean? So it was meant to happen. I encouraged that person to keep going, but to do it smartly. We had a great conversation. I said, hey, just be careful, because based on the things that I was hearing, people wanted to rat him out and write him up. And because we have this thing in our company where you can tattletale on people. I absolutely hate it, but it can be necessary. For example, if somebody was drinking and they show up to work, like in my line, that's huge, obviously, right? You definitely don't want to be working with somebody that is under the influence, obviously, right? But that being said, I just encourage that person to be smart. Don't put any uh, company logos or anything like that. Don't do it in certain restricted areas. Don't film in certain restricted areas. I encourage them. And at the end of the day, like, think about the energy that was being exchanged in that moment, the positivity, the the kindness, the respect. And in that transfer, that person now became, friends with me, and now has a respect. Anytime I see him, even crossing through the airplane, he's like, hi, mate. And he's British, you know what I mean? Like you can tell that there's an authentic relationship there now, because that person took my kindness and was like, oh man, this person's trying to help me and not trying to talk bad about me or try to put me down. You know what I mean?
That's the
Um,
difference. That's the difference with Let's Talk Frank. You open that honest conversation, whereas most corporate cultures, they they don't allow a lot, they have a lot of limitations and stuff like that, right? So it's
yes.
important. I put out a video about changing industries. At any moment, someone can come into an industry and completely change it. That's the power. That's what we have our hands on, to completely change and transform industries based on how we approach doing business instead of being like regular corporate cultures.
Yeah,
That
I'm actually reading a book, Good to Great, and it talks about companies that survived or went from good to great, and they had all these factors and all these aspects, and some of them had like grand CEOs, and in most cases that didn't solve their problems. When they were just a good company, they would hire these great CEOs, you know what I mean, but their philosophies and their culture weren't able to take these companies to the next level.
yeah.
So exactly, right? So um sometimes it's not about throwing money at a problem and expecting it to go away because you threw money out of it. Sometimes it's really just looking at, how you're connecting with the people around you, or what your product is and how you're connecting with people, whatever it is. It's a
Vision,
really,
vision and leadership.
yeah,
A leader with a strong vision is going to have the most impact. The biggest industry on the entire planet is leadership. And
yes.
and what's one step further than that? Spiritual leadership. So if we can merge those two together into one industry, imagine the type of impact, because it's the most lucrative industry on the entire planet, leadership, literally.
Wow. Well, and that's what this book is about. It actually talks about the CEOs that did have the right leadership. That's what one that I think is actually what the key ingredient was the leadership. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So that's beautiful that you brought that up, because that's exactly what got these companies, you know what I mean, was the leadership. So sure, you had a guy that maybe was running Coke, and then you bring him to your place. But guess what? Coke really just sold itself. You know what I mean? And you just pulled a couple strings and you started creating more revenue, but you didn't really do anything to get it out of any problems, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where this book, and I forget how big his team was. I think he had 21 researchers. You know what I mean? 21 researchers, yeah, over 5 years
Yeah.
researching this book. And yeah, like it was just really, it's really cool to hear how, what they took, what sort of criteria they looked at in order to really base their statistics on. And yeah, leadership. So that's beautiful. I mean, Even just hearing that word right now too is just giving me ideas about leadership, right? Maybe going under where I am right now, um, with Let's Talk Frank, having to complete this step in my career to gain this level of awareness for leadership is very huge. And that is, I did put Let's Talk Frank on the back burner because I had a huge goal that I needed to accomplish, and I did. And I've been learning from it too. Then I kind of distracted myself with a girlfriend, but that's another topic for another day. Um, but at the end of the day, now that situation is I'm free from that situation now, so I'm free to get back to what the original goal was, and I really feel like it's time now. And Steve, you can interject when you want to, because when I told you, I'm like, yeah, it's time to get back to it, and you were like, yes, and I knew you would. And like, so go ahead, finish that sentence for me.
Yeah, I was waiting on the right time. That's the thing. Like, oh, I sent you that one meme one time about the. Anyways, just a side topic. The point is though, we can't force things to happen, especially when we're in tune. We have to know when the right time is to say something, to bring certain things up. People have to want to do it, and we can just plant the seed and talk about it. And when the time opportune moment arrives, then we can bring that up and have a conversation, clear it, and then just everything it's just like it worked out. Like I was waiting for so long, but that's the thing about vision too, right? So a good leader has good vision. So there's the reason I have glasses because corrective lenses. My vision is being corrected. So that's an internal thing too. That's something that I'm working on is patient, persistent, patient, right? You've seen,
Yeah,
you've heard the quote probably, uh, patience, young grasshopper, but that patience pays off when
it
it's
does.
persistent, waiting for the right time. It teaches character, it teaches discipline, and we all learn what we need to in the moment. And here we are now, right? I didn't force it. I didn't keep bringing it up. I didn't remind you, right?
Yeah,
You have a path, you had goals. And then when the time came down to it, you already knew what you wanted to talk about. And I'm more than happy to host a podcast and I'm willing to talk about anything because I had to defeat those inner demons, uh, arrogance, thinking that I knew everything, all these topics. Yes, I have access to a lot of information, but I'm only hurting myself and my own growth by if I talk the way that I do, you know what I mean? If I don't know something, just be honest about it because we're all on different levels of awareness and we all contribute to the collective consciousness that is constantly being programmed into the universe. It's constantly expanding. That's
yeah,
that's why people that reach enlightenment, yes, they can tap directly into source. That doesn't mean they know everything. They have access to an all-knowing source, but it's always expanding upon itself. It's itself learning conscious organism. We can't ever know anything. Anyone who has ever said that, there's religious programming that's involved there because I've been on podcasts where we were discussing the Buddhist religious mindset. So I, I'm aware of all of those, the programming and how it works. I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to be able to freely to talk about anything and everything, see all the different perspectives because they all have a point and purpose and awareness, right?
yeah, 100%. And again, that's what I was alluding to in my conversations. Like I've sat beside all kinds of people with different views and different perspectives, and being able to sit there, you know, a great example is my COVID point of views. You know what I mean? I might be a little bit different in regards to the way I saw things. But then when I allow other people to express themselves freely and be open, I also allow myself to acquire some new information and some new perspectives that I probably would have never done if I still had my old mindset where I was like, no, man, you're wrong and you're an idiot. for believing that. You know what I mean? Where now I don't judge people because again, the forgiveness, like I forgive. I learn to forgive more often than I did in the ever in at any point in my life, because you allow people to be. And I'm stealing this from Mel Robbins, let them, the let them theory, right? Well, I think she took that let them from somebody else, but she wrote a book about it too. And it's great because you do have to let people be. And, I'm going to go back to my relationship because I really care about this person still. And I had to let them be them in order to grow and learn. And it was hard for me. It's still hard. Like I think about her every day. I think she's a great person, but has some areas that she really needs to work on, and I can't be around that when I'm feeling drained and I'm feeling not seen. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't fill somebody else's cup if your cup isn't full either, right? So how can you give if you don't have anything to give, right? So, but I also recognize that, this was somebody that I dated that came out of a marriage too soon. And I knew from the beginning, I didn't trust my own intuition because everything was so great. Everything was great. It was a beautiful start. But again, it had to happen. It happened the way it unfolded. I don't hate it. I don't wish it never happened. I'm glad it happened. I got to spend time with somebody that I find, very beautiful in different aspects. But I also see a wounded child that I cannot change. And it is not my purpose. Even the platform that I have and the type of mentality that I have, there is still resistance to some of the talks that we'd have based on my experience and my knowledge of my growth that person has to learn. And that ties into our conversation today with there's certain things that you had to learn and you had to grow through. So I truly believe because the way I let go of that person was very similar to the way I let go of you. I said, I know that we will talk again. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We'll talk again. I know that you're gonna learn. And because it came out of love and it came out of a good place, you know what I mean? I truly believe, like, dude, you're not the only one, too, Steve, that I've done this to, where I said, hey man, my phone is open when you're ready to talk.
And the resistance too. We've had these similar conversations on the phone. I've beaten myself up too before in the past when I was speaking purely from my heart out of love and compassion, and I could feel that people were hurting, and I was trying to guide the best that I could, and they were like pushing me away too. So I've seen what level of impact that has, and then also taking a step back in the moment and accepting. I have to trust my own intuition. I know that I have great leadership abilities inside of me. That if I refine it as great as I can, I could have a billion or $1 trillion company one day. I know I can do that if I set my mind to it. So I know my own intuition, just like you said, you know your own intuition. I know how I feel when
Yeah.
I speak with people. I can see certain things that need to be refined or tuned, right? Or certain behaviors and actions, things that they're attached to. That's the beautiful thing about the soul contract that I signed up for. I had to learn and master detachment. It could never be about the money. It has to be about the passion and the care and having the heart for humanity to see what is possible when they tap into the power within that we all hold sacred. Not externals, internals. Because once the internal is resolved, the external matches the internal. It can't
Yes.
pace
Yes. As
the
above, so
ripple
below.
as within, so without. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, and that's exactly it. I've also been learning, what I could have done better in that relationship too. You know what I mean? Because I'm not blaming this person for everything. You know what I mean? I also wasn't showing up as myself, as my true self. Yeah, I accomplished the goal, but I got away from getting to my next goals. But mind you, I was drained a little bit. I did need some rest, but I also contribute some of the things that I went through as putting too much into a relationship and too much of my health into a relationship where I know that I don't need to do that in the future. You know what I mean? Like for number one, I should have let that relationship go a little earlier because I already started to see things, behaviors, red flags, like big ones that I really was like, whoa, this person still needs to heal. And I, I trusted that person, but the more I let it go, the worse it got because when you accept somebody for who they are, you're not allowing them to grow. You know what
And
I
you
mean?
see beyond their flaws sometimes too. We all have flaws. We all have
Yeah.
issues. We all
But
have
I
dark
never
sides.
judged her for her flaws.
Yeah.
I encouraged her to work on them and to grow through them. But that person wasn't ready to hear from them because they didn't believe that they had any. And that was scary when I heard that because I was like, what? You okay? So those kind of things are very difficult. But as they started to go on, they started to acknowledge, okay, there's something wrong with me. But then it was like excuses, like finding, well, what's the excuse? Like, what can I take a pill for it? Can I, you know what I mean? And it was like, no, go deep inside of you. And that's where there was conflicting things because I was trying to express the spiritual side of things for me to be like, no, you need to go inside of you. Like, if you have a wounded child, I think that needs help or whatever, right? And then that person tried to go through to counseling and stuff. And I think it worked a little bit, but it's hard too because those people don't really know you and they only know what you tell them also.
And a lot of
So
times therapists too, they can have a lot of information, but if they don't have the experience, they can't connect on an emotional or a soul level.
yeah,
I
like it like just to add to it because it's exactly because it's like I know you, Steve, right? So in that moment that we had that little confrontation, like I kind of knew I was like, man, you need space. But like in that setting, if you don't really know somebody and they're telling you something, like that expression, there's three sides to every story, your side,
their
their
side,
side, and the
the
truth,
truth. Yeah.
right? So this in this setting, this person's only getting one side of a story, right? So it's really hard to give good advice to somebody when you only have one side of the story. So it's not like I'm saying that like based on just how I am with people right now. Like, even when I sit with people and I hear them tell me their sides of the story, sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, I wonder what the other person thinks. You know what I mean? Because again, we don't really acknowledge like our behaviors and how we react to certain things too, right? Like, and that's where my mind sometimes goes so deep. And I was trying to really go deep with this person. And this person was just not allowing me to get inside of them and get close to them. And ultimately, what I craved for a relationship, and I stated it early in the relationship, what I wanted with somebody, that wasn't being fulfilled. And that person knew the rules of engagement. So the moment that person is now trying to change the rules, that relationship is over.
Trying to renegotiate the contract. There's a concept in Japanese philosophy called wabi-sabi. It's about embracing the impermanence of life. Like we can literally heal the past when we accept everything in the present moment. There's power in that.
There's power in that, right? I I could have tried to work with it and stayed longer with it, but I knew that like energetically it was draining me and the currency, the drain, the energy, right? Like where that word comes from, right? Why do we use that with money, right? Like that flow wasn't good. It wasn't good for me. And you know what? I was blaming it on other aspects of my life. Like I wasn't getting overtime at work because I like just the way my company is structured at the moment, or my division of the country company is structured. Like I was making more money last year than I am this year. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
I'm still doing good.
Because of the amount of people, the amount of people that are flying through WestJet.
Well, it's I mean, obviously there's no, not specifically. It's more so when there's pilots that say they call in sick or those kind of things. Like there's flights that are available by the company for overtime, right? Before the company would fly me out, you know what I mean? And You know what I mean? But we switched to a new system where I can call in and say, yeah, I'll pick it up because they would send us an email. Okay, this is available. I call in and say, yeah, I'll take it. Okay, perfect. Well, here's your flight, and they fly me out. But because I'm based in Toronto, but yet the company is based out of Calgary. So my airplane is based out of Calgary. So now WestJet has a few bases. Just my specific airplane is based out of Calgary. So most of the overtime is out of Calgary. Since we switched the system, in order for me to pick up overtime, I have to put my bid in. So I have to like try to pick it up. There could be like 4 or 5 people that put in that same bid, and then the company, the crew scheduler picks the person.
Yeah.
So guess what? People like me now who need a flight to get out there don't usually get the flight, don't usually get the overtime because the company is not going to spend that extra money. Or there's a duty aspect of it. So it might not fit the duty time. It might not allow me to do the whole pairing, for example, or that day, legally.
Yeah.
So there has been some roadblocks, right? So I was blaming some of that on like, man, I'm not making enough money, but realistically, I was blocking my own source of money. You know what I mean? Because then I could have done something else. Like I have a beautiful opportunity right now because I'm at the pinnacle right now in my position. You know what I mean? I know it. I'm constantly, doing training. I'm always reading something. I'm always staying on top of it. But I also have a lot of time that I can now invest in doing something else. So why wasn't I doing it then? What I've learned from this situation was that I was hoping for my health of the relationship to be where I wanted it to be for me to get going. Where now it's like, you know what? I wasn't giving my full potential to myself. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing you need to do is making sure that you are keeping up with yourself. And this is probably, I, I would say, most definitely something that I need to heal from. An issue that I have in my relationships. It's like that abandonment. Um, yeah, and I totally know it is abandonment. Like I get worried when this person seems like they're going to leave me. You know what I mean? Like, and it's an abandonment problem. And this person didn't leave me, but they made it seem like they were going to leave me on like 3 different occasions, and it would spark this like worry in me. Like what the fuck, like, and that's hard. You know what I mean? That's hard to go through as a person. So I recognize that now, and I recognize why I was allowing it to happen because I wasn't working on me still, like truly, like I was. And I quit drinking, for example, while I was with this person. I did other things. I know I got a little lazy from my workout routine, and then I started getting into it right before we separated. So I started getting back into a routine. So I started to recognize those kind of things that I still needed to work on myself, but I put a lot of pressure on myself for this relationship to be strong and to be healthy. And
Expectations. Yes.
exactly, right? So, but this is another thing too. It's such a like a Jekyll and Hyde thing because I also understand that I don't have expectations. Like I told her, I was like, listen, I don't own you and I don't control you. So my expectations of this relationship, like I would love to be with you. I would love to take it to the next level and I would love to make a bigger commitment. But if I can, then I will have to let it go. And so that was ultimately what I did because like again, I had to let go of those expectations. Like it wasn't flowing. The currency wasn't flowing as smooth as I wanted it to. Why? Because again, like I saw into your soul, like I saw in her soul, I know that she needed a bit more help and work on herself. And the only person that can do it was her. Because I tried to have these conversations. I tried to get her to be like, hey, you need to forgive, or you know what I mean? Like, and it just wasn't resonating and it wasn't going through to that person. So I'm like, I can't be around anymore because I know that whatever I'm saying to you is like, ugh, like it was like you're know-it-all, or like, it was starting to be rub off that way. And I was like, I recognize what's going on right now. And with love, I'm going to let you go. But it's not because I don't love you. Like I love you. And if you understand, I don't think they really understood that, like how much love was into that decision. Like I love you so much that I have to let you go in order for you to grow. It's almost like a rhyme. I almost could rhyme that. But do you know what I'm saying? I love you so much and I really don't want to do this. And that's why I've still been kind of like I haven't jumped into anything. It's been over 3 months now, but I haven't jumped into anything. Why? Because my heart is still with that person, but I also know I have to detach it at some point. I'm gonna have to cut that cord. Even if there's something meant to happen in the future, I still have to cut that cord right now because I have to let that person fully grow in their own energy. Because when you keep those cords, you're keeping a flow of energy with that person.
Cord cutting is important too. And there's a hidden gift behind all this because now you have more time to work on Let's Talk Frank, to do self-development,
Yes.
and the more
And work on me.
and work on you, which is it's all part of the puzzle. So it was divine timing that that relationship split off, and then everything comes back full circle because you can use all these as teaching tools to help people, to give them
And that's why I'm
advice.
talking about it.
Yes.
Exactly. Because relationships are, especially with like a love interest, they are the hardest relationships. And I would say your parents are the second hardest relationships. Um, because you're the most vulnerable in a relationship. Like, especially if you're intimate with this person, right? Like, that is the most vulnerable you can be with somebody. When you are stripped down and you have nothing on, this is the most vulnerable you are with anybody. Your parents saw that when you were a kid, but they haven't seen that when you're an adult, right? So, when you try so desperately to make things work, like you want a puzzle piece to fit, and you're trying to control, you know what I mean, you can't. And that was the thing about me, was like, I can't control this. I can't control this person, so I'm not going to try to make this puzzle fit. It doesn't fit right now. For me to have that level of awareness was difficult, and it was hard, and I'm not going to lie, man. I'm still a little struggling about it, you know what I mean? Because it's almost feels like I gave up on this person, but I didn't give up on this person. If anything, I allowed this person to grow, to now put themselves in an environment to grow with themselves.
Flourish because she wouldn't have been able to grow if she stayed in the relationship. When we love someone, we relinquish all control. That is what true unconditional love is. We can guide, but we don't want to control them.
It's
That
not
would
my
defeat the
job.
whole purpose.
It's not my job to do that.
They have
You
to
know what I mean?
control themselves,
Right,
not us.
exactly. And like again, man, man, it's like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Like, I even went through a divorce, and that was really hard. But I almost feel like this is a little bit harder because like I really love this person too. You know what I mean? And I really wanted this person to flourish and to grow. You know what I mean? But that's essentially what I'm doing. That's why. And it was hard for me because we had a conversation after. It was hard to me to hear her say, like, I'm like, like in the future, if you were to get to a level that you see things different now, and you're like, wow, you were right. I'm glad you gave me that. Could you see yourself making a go at this? And like answered right away, no. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was crazy, and it was so hurtful because like I know that, like, I truly believe, man, like it's not over. You know what I mean? Like, I truly believe that there is going to be that moment where there's going to be that clairvoyance, that clarity, and there are going to be that aha moment. And they're going to be like, oh my God, did I ever? Wow. You know what I'm saying? Because I could see that already, but it was slow, and you can't rush somebody's healing.
No, you can't.
You can't rush it. Like, yeah, I know can't is one of my limiting beliefs, and I say try not to use those words. But when it comes to somebody else, like it's not something that I want to force on somebody, especially a loved one, especially a parent, especially your kids. We got to release that control. You know what I mean? And that has been one of the things that I had to really dig deep into myself and just realize, like, no, I can't. This is not something that is doing me any good right now. It's not helping me. It's really sucking energy from me, if anything. You know what I mean? And I just feel drained. Like, I don't feel happy, and it doesn't feel like the relationship that I talked about when I laid out my rules of engagement. You know what I mean? This is not the relationship that I talked about. Like, this beautiful connection, this beautiful relationship where we can talk and we can come to a mutual understanding. There was never really, only a few times there was mutual understanding. For the most part, it was that person's way or no way. So it was really hard for me to really, again, you got to know what you want when it comes to relationships, because that's how you set the standard for
And
yourself.
how to get there. When I adjusted my communication style with my own father, I noticed relationships in my life started changing because how we relate with our own parents has a direct correlation to our relationships in our life because that ties into our root uh, our own root energy, our support, the base structure of our spine, which supports everything else. My father and I had a conversation recently, and he said, unconditional love, we receive, unconditional love, we give. We have an amazing relationship now. It's
And
never been better than it is now, and it's only going to keep getting better and better and better. My relationship with my sister, my brother, and everything else is just is flourishing when the energy is clean. It
and
connects.
And I feel the same because I almost didn't talk to my dad for 3 years. You know what I mean? Like during COVID, right? And we just spent a week together in Costa Rica, and that relationship has flourished. You know what I'm saying? Because that powerful emotion that that powerful action, I guess you can say, of forgiveness. You know what I mean? I forgive them. And now we can actually have good conversations. And because I forgive them for who they are, I've forgiven that child that's still there because I see the child. You know what I mean? Like that child has been wounded.
You were
And
honest about what needed correcting. This is the first step. And you talked about responsibility, right? Being honest about what we need to do and then taking the action steps. Forgiveness is one thing, but people have to realize what's preventing issues in their life. Like you and I both, this is why we reconnected, because we realized what needed to happen to move forward in the relationship. And
exactly,
it's
exactly.
this is something that I wish more people knew. This is why we're creating the tools for them
And
to
and
help them.
and this is why I truly believe what I told you, the other day talking about my ex, for example. Like I just don't feel like it's over, but I do need to still let it go. You know what I mean? I still need to let it go. I need to release my judgment, my opinions, you know what I mean? Like that outcome. And this is another beautiful aspect of it. When I was overthinking it and playing it, replaying all the decisions that I made and why I did this, I asked the universe or God, the creator, to give me a sign. And you know what he did? Like, man, it was so beautiful when I was uploading my videos, my because I haven't been posting and I haven't been doing anything, and so when I was on my trip, I was thinking about, okay, I want to get back into this, just building that game plan in my mind. What am I going to do? Start slowly putting content and little snippets, and so I was creating all this stuff in my mind, and so when I went to put my first reel yesterday, I started looking back on my reels that I posted from before, and there were what 200 200 weeks ago. You know what I mean? 211 weeks
111?
ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's throw that number out there, right? Like it was probably around that time, right? One of my videos was so beautiful because, and I'm sorry, I'm patting myself on the back right now, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. So I got my answer the very next day after that sleepless moment about just overthinking everything and just saying, because I wanted to contact this person so badly. And I'm like, but I can't because all I wanted to do was point out where this person still was seeing things wrong. So my ego was really diving deep into this moment. And I was like, no, I cannot do this. This spiritual journey has to be done by herself with the people around her in her own life. I cannot intervene anymore. I was already part of her life for almost 2 years. You know what I mean? Whatever I left behind, that will be there still. So I cannot, I said what I needed to say. We've said what we had to say. I expressed a lot of love for her. And I still told her the last conversation we had, which was 2 months ago, I still told her how much I still love her. So
Yeah.
I said everything. She knows the door is open. right? So that person needs to feel that and to
Yeah.
go through that. You know what I'm saying?
She's gotta realize what it is that she actually wants. You know what you want. She has to figure it out. But you ask source. It's just like a conversation I had with a friend of mine, Adele. She said you need to ask source how to resolve this. Ask for a sign. When I went home last, I asked for a sign. I was so frustrated. I said there has to be a better way. I'm tired of doing things the same because I don't want the same results. There, seagull again. Boom. So I asked for a sign. I do grounding at night on the grass, right? Earthing. Receive those negative ions from the earth, release all the stress, reconnect, and calm my mind right before bed helps me sleep so much better. 2 nights in a row, Frank. 2 nights in a row. I've seen one shooting star in my entire life when I was in Texas in a hot tub, speaking with a financial genius, and he made a wish on a shooting star. Now, I learned from that experience, I knew what I needed to do, and it has to be from pure intentions. So, 3 shooting stars. I asked for a sign. I saw 2 shooting stars 2 nights in a row. And I said, this has to mean something. So I asked the universe through pure humility to bring people into my life to show me what my path is because I didn't have the clarity. And now it's all unfolding. And then I was coming down on mushrooms one night. When I got back into it, took about a 6 minute break or six month break, because if you do too much, it can keep you stuck in the underworld. I learned my lesson, right? I can't be a shaman if I'm repeating the same mistakes. I need to discipline, right? And I'm lying there on nature underneath the tree, and this man's walking his dog. Guess what the dog's name was?
Comet?
Zeus.
Oh,
Zeus.
I thought a
Literally
comet.
the planet of abundance. And the owner's
Yes.
calling the dog back. It's like, Zeus, Zeus. I'm just lying there and I look at the time. Everything's in perfect alignment. And I'm
Yeah.
just chuckling to myself because I asked for and then I'm looking at all these astrological events that are coming. And I'm going to be doing an interview about Saturn returns because that's Saturn's about structure, responsibility, discipline, and it just returned
Yeah.
recently. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. But all these things have to mean something. I went for a walk one day, and I just need to get out of that. I went for a 4 hour walk. I saw 7 rabbits in one day. That's significant. So I'm just piecing all these things together. I can't limit myself, my abilities anymore. That's why it's so important the people that we surround ourselves with. They have to be aligned with our vision because that's how magic happens.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Like, and to go back to that, my sign was me. He showed me a video that I did of detachment and how detachment leads you to a different path. You know what I mean? Like things didn't happen for a specific reason because that wasn't meant to happen. Do you know what I mean? But you go down a different path. And when you finally realize and you get to the end of that journey and you realize you're like, oh, that's why I didn't go through that or that, you know what I mean? Other things have to happen. Even for myself, I still have to grow. I still didn't blame that person for the why the relationship went to shit, you know, and didn't go to shit. But there's certain aspects for me as the type of person that I am that I'm like, okay, I've tried everything, I've done everything. This person is not listening to me anymore. Not even listening to me, but I'm like not taking the guidance. You know what I mean? Where it's like things were happening. There was a moment that this person was under a lot of stress. So yes, I'm guilty for also leaving this person while they were under this stress. But diamonds get created under
Under immense pressure. See,
immense pressure.
that's the thing. We're talking about taking a different path. The
Yeah,
path that you were on wasn't working. You
wasn't working.
broke that contract temporarily. That's when I saw like 3 rabbits within the span of 2 minutes when I went off the main path, followed my intuition. Something inside of me was telling me, take a different path, Steve. Go off. Take a
Yeah,
different
gotta
path.
listen to
So I
that
went I
voice.
went
Wow.
into the woods, and then I'm just like, Oh, and then there was a baby rabbit there too, which has a different spiritual significance. And the closer and closer I get, I even took a video of a beaver one time, and people came up. They're like, "I'm surprised they let you get that close." But there's a thing
That's
about
right.
having certain spiritual awareness. I learned this the hard way because I saw a beaver eating in the bushes, and I mentioned it to someone. Hindsight's 2020, right? Clarity, uh, spiritual situational awareness. And then that man with his dog scared the beaver away. So there's some things we need to keep to ourselves sometimes too.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that beaver was just eating, minding his own business, but the dog had an issue with him.
yeah,
And looking back now, I can use that to move forward. Just keep certain things to myself because that beaver is just like who's feeding. You you know the importance of healthy food and how it interacts with our temple. Never, ever, ever interrupt someone when they're eating their meal. That's that sacred time when they're receiving their nourishment for their spirit, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's one thing too. Like, you know, there's certain things about the Bible, like there's only certain people that can talk to God, for example. Like, I don't believe that. You know what I mean? Where I feel like, again, it kind of there's that dogma effect of that worship. You know what I mean? Where when Jesus came, Jesus talked about like, healing yourself, going within, like praying. Like we all can kind of talk to God. Like God doesn't necessarily directly talk to me and say, "Hey Frank, how's your day going?" Oh, great. No.
Unless
But
you
when
are
I
clairaudient, then
yeah,
definitely,
well, I mean,
but that's another story.
there's like those prophets, for example, that say that God spoke to them and there's scriptures written about them. You know, how can it only happen to those few people thousands of years ago and it still doesn't happen today? Like, you know what I mean? I really feel that yes, I think people still have the ability, but
They
the
do.
yeah, and but then the Bible says anybody who talks to spirits or says that they talk, it's demons. So there's other,
It's
contradictive.
framework. That's the thing. It's been highly edited to a
Yes,
point to control the mind. If you've ever seen the Book of Eli, they laid it out perfectly. It's a double-edged sword because it gives you
exactly.
hope while simultaneously controlling the minds of men. And that's what religion is. I gave it one last chance. Went to a Catholic church, beautiful architecture, but I
Yeah,
couldn't do it anymore. The Bible has great wisdom in it
for
when
sure.
looked at through the proper lens, and religion, until it evolves, it just will not do that. It keeps people trapped in lower dimensions,
Yeah, searching
seeking
and,
an
and searching, doing
external.
good to get to God, like to get to heaven, that sort of stuff, right? Like, again, and this is great because we talked about this point earlier, and these are one of the flaws that I see, when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? Like again, taking those pieces of the puzzle and taking it from different sources and creating, because the clues are all around us. We just have to have that openness, you know what I mean? And that awareness of just being able to do that. So, I know that for sure I try to protect myself from dark entities and I try not to put myself in those situations, you know what I mean? Like yeah, I truly believe in that. I've been down dark roads, you know what I mean? I've been in dark places. I've been around dark people. You know what I mean? Like it's not good. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, actually, let me tell you a quick story. I'm going to go off a little bit of a tangent here, but during COVID, there was nowhere to go, nowhere to, you know what I mean? And I found myself partying because I was still single at the time. So I was like in these places, in these homes with people that were just, smuggling to get in, their fun in. But this fun also included some pretty hardcore drugs and shit like that, right? Now, I didn't really partake into it because I already was on that side of like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really need that stuff. the awareness of like, man, all it takes is, with the fentanyl issue that's happening, one little grain of the fentanyl that could kill me, like a grain of salt, sorry, the size of a grain of salt,
Fentanyl is super potent. Yeah.
foot pone, right? So, things like that, right? Like, but I was around it. And it got to a point where I just showed up at this person's house uninvited, but I knew that like this is the house that everybody goes. And man, did they fucking, excuse my French, but damn, did they ever fucking like ridicule me and kill me? And you can't just show up. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, I thought we were all friends here. Like, you know what I
So
mean? Like,
they saw you as a paranoid threat almost.
yeah. And then, so exactly tying into the rest of the story. So then the one guy calls me and he starts freaking out on me on the phone. And man, I like still wasn't fully healed, and I got triggered too, so I went toe to toe, like with this person, and I was just like, you're fucked up, man, you're a fucking loser, like everything, like just I stooped down to that person's level. Man, I swear, about a month ago I was at my buddy's birthday. He was having it at his girlfriend's house in the backyard, nice get together. It was great to see a lot of great friends and I haven't seen in a while, and I come to find out that that guy died. You know what I mean? And I was just like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, just, the significance of that story to me is the fact that, you know what, like with the time that we have and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Like, that person never had the opportunity to, like, even say sorry or even have a conversation with me, and be like, hey, man, I'm sorry. Because we never hated the person. But then it escalated so quickly because they were under the influence and they were obviously not. So the entities that were there, weren't jiving with my celestial bodyguards that I have. You know what I mean? Because I know I'm divinely protected. You know what I mean? I've been in very bad situations where I don't know how, bad things didn't happen. So I
Oh,
know that I'm definitely guided, and I have a very strong protection team that guide me through this life.
chosen ones have extra spiritual protection so that that occurrence unfolded. So that man now has that karma passed on to the next life, and he has to, it's soul healing that he has to resolve that
Yeah, it's
experience.
gonna have to
So,
resolve. And
yeah.
at first he seemed like a decent person. I mean, decent. I'm saying that because there is a bit of judgment in there as far as somebody who, doing drugs and just not around the right people. But it's not that it's judging, it's observing. Like I didn't want to really be there anyway, but there was nothing to do, right? And there was many places to go. So this is kind of where the hangout was, right? And I thought I was close with people, but clearly I wasn't, right? So yeah, it was great because it was a benefit to me because I've never gone back to that environment, you know what I mean, since, right? And that's been over 3 years now. So it was good. It was a blessing in disguise, right? So at the end of the day, I just was kind of sad to hear that that person passed without being like you said, they're going to carry that to the next life because that is going to have to be something they're going to have to deal with. And that person had a child, you know what I mean? So like, your actions and your behaviors really, they'll lead you down a bad path. And you know what I mean? Like, unless you're able to stop it right now, this is the moment, guys. You got to stop it right now and realize and have that moment of clarity and just be like, oh my God, that's so true. Like oh my God, and thankfully, like in my first episode of my podcast, I talked about my moment that helped me kind of get through that. And I just hope for other people when they get like you spoke about that earlier. It's kind of beautiful about how when we don't have that mindset prepared, we miss those opportunities. So when the universe does give us those opportunities, you know what I mean? Like we'll miss them. You know what I mean? So, and I'm sure that it's happened to everybody. We've had those moments where we were all messed up, like anybody who went down like very drug uh, lifestyle. And you've had those moments to wake up, but you don't because you're not ready to wake up. You know what I mean?
Not ready to hear, like while you've been talking, there's a lot of things that have popped into my mind, and that's why I know we're definitely meant to work together because I can already see how big Let's Talk Frank can get and all the different ways that you can use to bring in different income streams because the average millionaire has seven sources of
Evans.
income. And I
Yeah.
already have like 15 or 20 sources of income written down. So I know I don't want to be a millionaire because astrology is billionaires study astrology, right? You and I are both big into astrology. You're born on a full moon. The Knights
On a
Templar
very significant
on the
date too.
13th, right? Yeah.
The
So
day
all
the Catholic Church uh, issued an order to kill all the Templars in Europe on Friday the 13th, October, Friday the 13th. Like, man, that's absolutely nuts. It's crazy. You know what
some
I mean?
decoding. And this is something that's been I've been wrestling with for a while. The Templars have there's some significance to that I need to dive deeper into because I'm learning too recently. So Scorpios are the most ancient of all the zodiacs, and
What
Scorp
makes them what makes them so ancient?
it's they're right their star sign. So the thing about tropical astrology is the sun's never changes its pattern or path. That's why people use it. It's the most accurate because the sun never changes. So the astrology uh, I interviewed a man one time in he's from Singapore, and he can look at someone's astrological chart and determine the age of their soul. He can even get it down to a fine-tooth science that he can find the reincarnated
Wow.
soul of his cat that passed away from cancer. He looked into a book, went back and said, I want that cat because he knew that was the same soul. So it's a direct science because it's a blueprint in the heavens of our because past lives are parallel lives. It's one soul that just finds a different avatar or body. So when
And
we
I
are
heard something
born,
about that too, where it could
yeah,
be happening now. Like just because we're living in we call the modern day, you know what I mean? There could be a simultaneous life living in ancient Rome, for example. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty crazy to kind of imagine that, right? Like we can choose. So
it,
there's like line is not like time, sorry, is not linear, right? Like
it's a hundred
it's
percent not linear. No, we've
yeah.
quantified it, which detached us from the knowing of being in oneness when we're sitting there in silence. That's the difference between skeptic metaphysician. Looking forward to going on his podcast in the future. But he brought on someone about becoming bioquantum. So instead of visualizing to see, you can ask Source to reveal to you. So it's less resistance, less effort, more flow. When you tap into Source, this is what is capable when you activate the neocortex. A neo in the matrix, if you rearrange the letters, it's an anagram for one. D1, connecting to the one source. That's what the Matrix was trying to show people to documentary on consciousness. He could
I
tap
love
into
that. I love that movie, man. That movie was amazing.
like 97% of our DNA is not been activated. We only use like 3%. Think about the
It's crazy.
possibilities.
Think about that. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy, right? And yeah, I mean, but again, I had this kind of thought with my aunt. We were talking, and I was talking about, yeah, like I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, and I believe in that higher aspect of life. Um, but one of the things that I believe that the return of Jesus is not going to be necessarily, it's just my belief. So don't quote me on this, folks. But my belief is when we can all elevate to Jesus Christ's mentality, you know, when we can all get our minds to that level of awareness,
Well,
level of knowledge,
he
Christ
said
like.
it's Christ. Yes, any spiritual philosopher will teach that the return of Christ is the return of ancient consciousness. The man
Ancient conscious.
himself, the man we call Jesus, even said, greater things will be done by people who follow me. Greater things. Like Look at what he accomplished. He was an ascended master, but he didn't even tap into what we are fully capable of. He wasn't flying. He wasn't teleport like all,
I mean,
you know what I mean? We can
if
do all
that's
these
even
things.
physically possible, but you never know, right? Like you never know if we haven't tapped into those other aspects of our DNA,
Yeah.
what is possible, right?
What's possible? Like
And 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 there's all kinds of clues. Like all these movies that we see, like man, do they ever give us a lot of clues about a lot of cool things like Indiana Jones, like you know how they talk about certain parts of the world, like there are some really cool things about movies that now I start to look at with more depth. It's just like, okay, what is this movie trying to tell me, right?
hidden in
It's
plain sight, yes,
it's
because
hidden in plain sight,
they
right?
can reveal, but at the same time, that's the thing about the CIA. They know that they can influence consciousness, but they can't control timelines. It's up
Yeah,
to people to determine their own programming. This is why I don't have cable. I choose what I watch with intention every single time. There was one night where I was looking for something to watch, and Tubi's free, so it's always going to be free. They don't charge, and they just use ads to fill in the revenue. And it
yeah.
took me like 10 minutes. All the recommended stuff was like horror movies and darkness and all this garbage and this trash. There's a time in my life where I needed that. I needed to go deep into to see how dark it can possibly be. Some of it's horrifying, some of the stuff that people consciously choose, unconsciously choose to put in their mind. But I ended up watching a movie about David who escaped from a Nazi prison camp, and he went on a soul discovery quest to reconnect with himself, a young boy, crossed the wilderness, went onto a ship, and somehow figured it out. Like he just survived. He followed his
Is
own
it based on
intuition.
a true story?
I'm not sure about. I'll send you the title and the trailer, but I was
Okay,
drawn to it. I'm still not finished it yet, but
got it, got
it's
it.
very
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
It sounds like a good story. Yeah, yeah, that's cool, and yeah, you know what, like exactly. There was a time and a place for all that, surface level kind of entertainment, but I feel you on that. Like I remember I was watching movies when I would dead ahead to Calgary, movies that were like very emotional. There was one that was based on a true story, and Robin Williams plays the doctor, and Robert De Niro is so it's Robin Williams, Robert De Niro. It's a very old movie. Well, not very old, but like an older movie. And Robin Williams comes across a drug and says, "Oh, I really believe that this might have a positive effect on this people based on some of the literature that was written and the observations and things like that." So he's giving this person the drug and it's not working, it's not working, and then he gives this person. He's like, "No, we got to up the dose and up the dose." And then one day he comes into work and this person is gone from the bed. It was completely. This was a vegetable. This person was a complete vegetable. Just a certain kind of disease, again based on real life. So I think there was an environmental issue that happened in that community,
Lou
and this
Gehrig's?
person,
Lou Gehrig's?
I forget what it is. I don't know exactly. It man, if anybody could, if anybody knows this title of the movie, put it in the comments or something because
Yeah.
it was very touching, and it was and I love those kind of real world movies, those experiences that happened and people remake it to kind of obviously not 100% true, right? Because there's always the dramatic effect and those
It
kind of things. But
has to be
anyway,
one thing for it to be true, but this is something that Jesse taught about marketing. How they market is they connect the emotion to the product.
yes,
They
for
have
sure,
to
right?
reach people's subconscious emotions.
100%. So anyway, so he comes into work, he sees Robert De Niro, the character he's playing, get up out of his bed and hair combed and just chatting it up, and everybody's sitting around laughing because he's like he has this personality. And he's like, what the heck? Like, what happened? And then the nurse comes over, he's like, he just woke up and he's just like this, and then the part that got to me, that pulled at the heartstrings, was the moment that the medicine stopped doing its thing. It only worked for a short period of time. And then there was like a callus, it was starting to form in the body. And he went back to being a vegetable. And it was the moment. Oh, sorry. There was a couple moments that pulled at the heartstrings. but it was a moment where his mom saw him. You know what I mean? Like he lost this when he was a kid. So he had to be forever admitted in this ward, psychiatric ward, even though he wasn't crazy. He just became a vegetable, right? And barely moved, barely, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then his mom came. Oh my God, what a scene that was, bro. Like, I mean, open the floodgates. You know, I'm a little bit of a sensitive soul. It's all good. I cherish it. But that was very, because imagine, you know, your child waking up and you get to see, and he recognized her right away. It was just incredible, dude. It was well done. Well done. But then the flip side to that was when he lost everything and he started to fall for this girl too. And he was starting to hang out with this girl. Dude, it was such a crazy emotional movie, but it was so powerful because it was just really making me appreciate again gratitude. I have gratitude all the time. Like, and I find moments where like, man, I'm really grateful that I don't have a disease like that. I'm really grateful that I still have access to my kids and I can still hug them and I can still watch them grow and you know what I mean, like little things like that. Really powerful movie, really emotional, but yeah, I mean those are great movies to kind of connect and get that gratitude back and appreciate what you have. But man, Steve, it's been a long time.
Yes. So
Should
let's
we?
do some closing wrap ups
There we
and
go.
this to end it on such a powerful note like that. When people truly connect with their soul purpose, they can accomplish whatever their heart's desire is. They
Amen.
can accomplish whatever their heart's desires. The heart is powerful, and that's I've I've switched. You you've known me for many years now. Well, many lifetimes. Let's back up. Let's expand this a little bit. So
Go 5D here.
yeah. So when we operate just on the mind can tell us stories. It can restructure and rechange what memories actually are. But the heart has pure intentions, does not deceive. So as long as we're properly connected to our heart, it's going to guide us. Think about where it's located too. It's in between the gut and the mind. It's in the center. So that's how we
But
achieve our potential is through balance. So let's do some closing uh, some closing words of wisdom. Frank, what is what people can take away from this whole soul bonding experience, this beautiful exchange of energy that we created here today that's going to ripple throughout all time? What is some words of wisdom
yeah,
you could
I
offer
think
people that they can take away from this to implement into their lives if they're truly serious about getting to the next level and soul growth? Words of wisdom.
yes. So we talked on like actions that we can take, right? Like forgiveness, things like that. But really, what I can tell you, the best advice I can give you right now is you have to have that moment of like, that's it, that's enough. It's time to change. And that is only personal to you. I can tell you, hey, man, like you got issues, you need to change. But that isn't going to do anything for you. That's not going to resonate with you unless you are ready to change. So you have to have that moment where it's like, okay, that's enough. I'm done with this. I want to change my timeline. Once you do that, you need to truly believe that you can do it and you will do it. And you need to use words like that. I will. Look at yourself in the mirror. You can't lie to yourself. And if you can, you've mastered the art of lying to yourself. You know what I mean? Talk to yourself. If you really need to look at yourself in the mirror, use that as a tool, as an exercise to really challenge yourself. Look yourself deep into your eyes, into your own soul, and tell yourself, I'm going to change my life. I am going to change my life. You know what I mean? I am good. I'm committed. I'm all this, right?
Yeah.
Because if you say to yourself like, yeah, I'm a good person, but you don't believe that, you're never going to change. So you have to really dig deep and have that moment of it's time. That is individual. I can't tell you when that can happen, but I think something that could help would be just place that thought in your mind. Even if you're not going to do it today, and if you're lucky enough to wake up tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, as long as you plant that seed in your mind that I want to change, I want to change, I want to change, I want to change. I'm going to change. I'm going to change. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this soon. As long as you plant the seed, let it develop into your mind because that's how I quit drinking too. I knew I had a few friends that quit and I started to see, you know what? Maybe I need to change. And I wasn't ready. It took me about 2 to 3 years to really, but I put it in my mind, the seed. I said, I'm going to quit drinking one day. I'm going to quit drinking one day. I'm going to quit drinking one day. And at that moment, I was like, that's it. I'm going to do it with her. And I'm not going to start drinking again. So that was my moment because I put it into my mind. I planted that seed. So I think that would be very valuable to start planting that seed because right now if you're watching this, you're not going to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to go get up off the couch after watching this 2.5 hour, podcast. I'm going to get off the couch and I'm going to go change my mind. No, you're that's not being really realistic. That change is going to come on a separate time, in a separate moment, in a moment that you finally had enough. And I'm telling you right there, that is it. That is going to happen when you plant that seed and you trust in yourself that you are going to do it and you believe that you will do it. You will do it. You have to go and you have to trust yourself, but you also have to want it. And when you do have that want, then you can apply the three things that I mentioned. Surrounding yourself with those people, changing your thoughts, changing your being aware of what you say to yourself, and then practicing that gratitude. So once you're really ready to really make that change, then you can take that next step to those three tips, tools that we spoke about earlier, because I believe without a doubt in my heart that that is the key right there. And then you can incorporate all that growth, all that mind expansion to acquire more tools that you will need.
That's beautiful. That is a beautiful wrap up
Thanks.
then, because you just summarized it so eloquently, an
Thank
entire
you.
talk, right? So it's the length isn't as important as the quality of the information in it. And always the right people are going to be drawn towards it, right? So the ripple effect that we created here is going to be it's going to be something magical, man. Start it to something so much bigger than ourselves and just tapping into that full potential and purpose because I'm seeing it unfold in real time. It's
Beautiful.
it's a
And
magical
this was
thing,
a
man.
way for me, this was an opportunity for me to kind of get back again into just being in my element. Like, I love this. I love talking about this. I love giving this wisdom that I've learned, that I've used, that I incorporate. So this is not stuff, this is not new age stuff. This is actually something that I've lived. So, thank you for the opportunity to come on and talk again and kind of, you know, plant that seed. You know what I mean? And to really get back into being comfortable and talking again and expressing some positive information, with all the negative information that can be transferred on a day-to-day basis, through social media. There's also positive stuff as well, right? So this has been really incredible for me. I feel amazing. I like when I'm done here, I feel like I'm gonna walk out of here and get back to my day and do some great things and continue to go and accomplish things, right? With everybody and with you, Steve. And same with you, right? And that's just the way we live as people.
Confidence radiates, it attracts people. And authenticity is the biggest thing. So being grateful for what we have, using what we have, sharing it, and creating an impact and have no limits too. So let's end on that note. Thank you for your time, Mr. Francisco
You're welcome.
Portela. Airline pilot turned motivational
Yes.
speaker. Let's talk, Frank. We'll do another one at some point. There's always more to be
Yes.
learned, and let's see. Maybe we can do a
Yeah.
round table
And
at some
you know
point too as well.
you know what? Like, yeah, that would be good. And again, you know what? I am going to be putting some more effort into my platform again. So if anybody wants to start following me on Instagram, let's underscore or at let's underscore talk underscore Frank. I am going to be starting to put more content. I'm really going to start to drive it in again. I haven't decided when I'm going to get back into my podcast because my producer lives in Toronto now. So he's got all the equipment and all this stuff saved on his computer. But that's no excuse. You know, I can learn that stuff. I can do it myself. I used to sit there and edit with him, so I know that I could just figure it out myself. So that will come in due time, and I will get back into that seat as well. And but for the most part, I will be posting content now and tips like I told you today on my Instagram. So please follow along, watch this incredible journey unfold, and yeah, and you know follow Steve too, man. Like he's going places as well. So and he's going to attract a lot of great guests onto his platform as well. So follow along, guys. It's going to be amazing.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate the kind words that resonated deeply with me. I felt shivers through my entire body when you were talking about
Awesome.
that. So that's yeah, the truth detectors, the little soldiers is just like standing at attention, ready for duty, sir. So
Awesome, man. And
thank you.
it is good feeling to be able to communicate and to spread good information, right? Like, you know, it might not be right, but it might not be wrong. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it is coming from a good place. You know what I mean? We're not trying to sell you on products that are going to kill you. You know what I mean? This will make you stronger and will make you grow and find that purpose.
Time tested and true. Thank you, Frank.
No problem.
And until
Have a good
next
day.
time,
Till
bye
next
for
time.
now, Captain.
Aye, aye.